Chapter 9-10. 9 Nether Soul Search. The youngster's face was a bit unsightly. The blue light spread out, collecting Yi Chen's aura and wrapping it in a blue light ball. Puff. A mouthful of demonic power was spat out, and the blue light ball chased after Yi Chen's aura. The youngster and the fiendish man followed behind, neither of them saying a word. Hey! His right in front. The youngster was a bit strange. In his opinion, Yi Chen shouldn't have stopped. After a while, the two's faces became more and more unsightly. Yi Chen had obviously found the flaw of 9 Nether Soul Search. Along the way, he left behind a Zhen Yuan afterimage. This Zhen Yuan afterimage contained very little Zhen Yuan and didn't have much fighting power. However, it still had Yi Chen's aura. 9 Nether Soul Search could only sense aura, not life fluctuations. Thus, it naturally lost its effect. After shattering Yi Chen's Zhen Yuan afterimage with one punch, the fiendish man said in a low voice, "He still escaped. It's my mistake. If I had known earlier, I would have sealed the space and stabilized it." In fact, the youngster suspected that even if he had used 9 Nether Heaven Lock to stabilize the space, he might not have been able to stop Yi Chen. That sword move of Yi Chen's contained an unimaginable power. "It's not your fault. I was also careless." The fiendish man was deeply worried. The current Yi Chen was even more troublesome than Xian Hu. The battle with Yi Chen just now made him understand that with their strength, even if they planned meticulously and went all out, they still wouldn't be able to kill Yi Chen. At most, they would be able to injure him. He had never thought that in such a short time, a small ant had grown to a point where they couldn't do anything. Sigh, if my strength had recovered a bit more, perhaps the ending wouldn't have been like this. The youngster sighed and continued, Blackstone was too cautious and lost the only chance to kill him. If he had gone all out from the start and personally attacked, the situation wouldn't have developed to this point. The fiendish man was silent. Sometimes, he also felt that Blackstone was too cautious. He was simply the polar opposite of the crazy 9 Nether. If the two of them could be combined, it would be perfect. Of course, he could also understand Blackstone's mood. Unsealing those sealed lords was the most important matter for Blackstone and the others. Blackstone did not want to complicate matters, so he was not willing to personally take action. Moreover, who could have predicted that Yi Chen would progress so quickly, breaking the norm and catching them unprepared? It's useless to talk about this now. The fierce-looking man shook his head. Indeed. The young man flicked his fingers and said, "This person's wings are growing stronger and stronger. If I can't kill him now, it will be very difficult to kill him in the future. I don't mind continuing to chase after him and wasting manpower and resources." The fierce-looking burly man looked at 9 Nether strangely. He didn't expect 9 Nether to be more mature than he had imagined. Perhaps the setbacks of these years had changed him a lot. In that case, he had to thank Xian Hu and the Dragon King. Otherwise, with 9 Nether's craziness, he might have ruined the plan. Of course, this was Blackstone's evaluation of 9 Nether. "I will talk to Blackstone. I believe he will not be willing to continue to waste energy chasing after Yi Chen." Not chasing after Yi Chen didn't mean that they had given up on killing Yi Chen. It was just that they didn't want to waste too much effort for Yi Chen's matter. If there was an opportunity in front of them, they would still give it a try. Just like Xian Hu, if there was an opportunity, they wouldn't mind killing Xian Hu. Unfortunately, there wasn't an opportunity. I believe that Blackstone has the same idea as me. Moreover, one Yi Chen may not be able to ruin our plan. Once those lords come out of the seal, not to mention one Yi Chen, even if there were 10 Yi Chens, it wouldn't matter. At that time, those with battle prowess below 6 stars won't be able to control the overall situation. The young man sneered. "I hope so." The fiendish man felt that 9 Nether's words were reasonable. No matter how fast Yi Chen's progress was, he was only at the initial stage. Once he reached 5 stars, his progress would slow down. In the past, Xian Hu had also reached 4 stars not long after entering Life and Death Realm. However, after several decades, she had only increased by 1 star. Yi Chen was more formidable than Xian Hu. Reaching the high or even peak 5-star battle prowess was already quite amazing. 6 stars was simply a pipe dream. 9 Nether, Aren't you coming with us? Putting aside the matter of Yi Chen, the fiendish man said to the young man. The young man shook his head. You guys have your plans, and I have mine. Staying together, there's no guarantee of safety. On the contrary, we'll be much safer if we're separated. You should know that you can't put all your eggs in one basket. What a pity. With you joining us, the plan can be completed even faster. The fiendish man was extremely clear about Nine Nether's ability. All right, since we've given up on chasing this kid, I'll be heading back. It's best if we don't run into each other in the future. The young man took a step forward and turned into a blue light. Let's find a safe place first. The fiendish man broke through the space barrier and dove into the depths of the sea. An hour later, two powerful auras rushed over. One was a beautiful young woman who looked like an alluring fairy. Her figure was extremely enchanting. Her chest was ample, and her waist was slender. Her legs were long and slender, occupying 2/3 of her body. Her buttocks were perky, forming an astonishing arc. In short, she was a fairy that could make any man go crazy. The other was a middle-aged man with a sharp aura like a heavenly sword, wearing a scholar's robe. Their auras far surpassed the fiendish man and the young man. If Yi Chen were here, he would certainly feel extreme danger and keep his distance. Azure Sky Sword Emperor, you also sensed the demon's aura? The alluring woman spoke first. Indeed. The middle-aged man nodded. We're late. The Fey woman brushed away the hair on her forehead. Her beautiful eyebrows furrowed together, as if she were looking at her pitifully. The demons have come out, and chaos is coming. It doesn't matter if we kill these small fries or not. Only by finding their base can we get rid of them. I'm afraid it won't be that easy. Although the stronger one is, the greater the injury. In recent years, there are still many otherworldly experts coming in. If I'm not wrong, their plan should be to unseal those super experts who have been sealed for countless years. Although these super experts have suffered great injuries, as long as they have the otherworldly treasures, they can still recover. The scariest thing is that as time passes in Elysium, their injuries are slowly recovering, and they're gradually adapting to Elysium. Once they break out and recover their cultivation, it will definitely be a disaster for our Elysium. This is a dead end. We have no other way. We can only increase our strength through the slaughter. Otherwise, we can only die together. The middle-aged man's eyes were cold, without a trace of emotion. Right now, we can only take one step at a time. I'll take my leave first. As she spoke, the alluring woman disappeared into the void. Her figure flickered, and she appeared tens of thousands of miles away. The chaotic era has come. Who knows how many kings will fall? The middle-aged man looked up at the sky, and in the next instant, his figure disappeared into the void. You and Nine Nether joined hands, but you still couldn't kill him? In the underwater palace, the black-skinned expert looked at the horned blood figure beside him and said in a low voice. The horned blood figure was a will projection projected by the bloodstone. He slowly said, "This kid is proficient in space profound. Whether it is his battle strength or escaping ability, he's top-notch. I'm afraid that no one under 5 stars can stop him. Ordinary 5-star kings don't have much hope, unless it's an extremely fast 5-star king. Battle prowess and speed were related, but not by much. A 5-star king with powerful battle prowess might not necessarily be faster than a 4-star king with powerful speed. Battle prowess was the embodiment of killing ability. Blackstone, this kid has already matured. We shouldn't waste too much energy," the horned blood figure suggested. After a moment of silence, the black-skinned expert nodded. I was too cautious. Since that's the case, let's give up on chasing him. Next, we should focus on unsealing the lords. The black-skinned expert was somewhat helpless. Previously, he had given up on chasing Shenhu, and now, he was giving up on chasing Yi Chen. History was so similar. He couldn't help but admit that in Elysium, they still couldn't cover the sky with one hand. Using space profound, Yi Chen's speed was inconceivably fast. He shuttled through the void like a clump of formless spatial power. After a long while, Yi Chen stopped. After entering life and death realm, I can finally display a part of space profound. This movement art containing space profound is something I couldn't do before. Space Profound was one of the strongest profounds. It required great control, which was closely related to one's mental state. My battle strength should be at high stage 4-star. The Demon King demons I'm fighting is also at high stage 4-star. His foundation is a bit stronger than mine, but I can contend against him with orbit kill. It's hard to tell who will be the winner. But, adding that seemingly unfathomable youngster, I'm not his opponent. Yi Chen could see that although the youngster's aura was similar to the fiendish man's, his eyes were extremely frightening, as if he could see through one's heart. The same battle strength might not necessarily be equal. In comparison, Yi Chen felt that the youngster was a bit stronger than the fiendish man. This kind of strength came from the strength of his mental state. Unfortunately, orbit kill will take a long time to complete. Seems like I'll have to research other moves as soon as possible. It would be best if I could research the simpler ones that can increase my battle strength. Autumn Water Sword Arts. I can't. My Metal and Water Profound have both reached greater completion. To research a sword move that can contain two great profounds at greater completion will be more difficult than orbit kill. In a one-on-one battle, 70% completed Space Profound was naturally far superior to Metal Profound and Water Profound. 70% completed Space Profound was almost equivalent to 121% completed Metal Profound or Water Profound. However, when Metal Profound and Water Profound fused into one sword strike, the difficulty would skyrocket by more than 10 times, and its power would greatly surpass the orbital slash. Although Yi Chen's comprehension was 10 times higher than others, he couldn't create a powerful sword move just because he wanted to. It was too unrealistic. Since Autumn Water Sword Arts were not an option, he could only focus on vibrational sword arts. The first style of vibrational sword arts was Sky-Cutting Sword. If he could create the second style, its might would definitely surpass the incomplete orbit kill. It would be a great help to the current Yi Chen. Chapter 9-11. After entering the life and death realm, one had to pay attention to too many details. Although his soul power and Jin Yuan seemed to have increased, and his power was far beyond what it had been in the past, it was still not that easy to use. It was just like a normal person with 1,000 Jin of strength suddenly increased to 10,000 Jin or 100,000 Jin. He would not be able to control his strength in a short period of time. If he held a cup, he might break the cup. If he sat on a bench, he might break the bench. Strength was important, but technique was equally important. And the most basic requirement for technique was to be familiar with one's own strength. Therefore, when he was studying the Space Profound sword move, Orbit Kill, he had already felt that there were still some problems with his soul power and Jin Yuan control. He was not able to move the sword with his will like before. However, the vibrational sword spell's technique requirements were even higher than the Space Profound sword moves. This was because this sword art required Jin Yuan vibrations to make the sword vibrate. If one wasn't familiar with their own strength, it would be impossible for them to study the second style of the vibrational sword spell. If other sword moves were dominated by Profound, then the vibrational sword spell would be dominated by vibrating power, with Profound as support. Vibrational sword arts contains Metal Profound. With the Metal Profound combined with vibrational power, the second style's might will be extremely frightening. Tearing apart objects of the same level will be as easy as flipping one's hand. Yi Chen was very confident in the second style of vibrational sword arts. He was different from Lan Sanmai. Although Lan Sanmai's demonic blade arts were very high, apart from demonic blade arts, his other advantages were much weaker. He had also heard of the demonic blade king of demonic blade sect. Relying on his superb demonic blade arts, he was invincible against kings of the same level. However, the potential of Yi Chen's vibrational sword arts was not inferior to that of demonic blade arts. Most importantly, Yi Chen had the sixth-step destruction sword intent. Combined with it, the might of his vibrational sword arts would be extremely frightening. Familiarizing myself with soul power and Jin Yuan is nothing better than using defensive sword art. Next, I'll keep using it. Defensive sword art had a high requirement on soul power and Jin Yuan. While using defensive sword art, one could also familiarize themselves with soul power and Jin Yuan, killing two birds with one stone. Clang. The evil vanquishing sword unsheathed itself and floated beneath Yi Chen's feet. Stepping on the evil vanquishing sword, Yi Chen formed a sword spell, activating his soul power and Jin Yuan at the same time. Xiao, the evil vanquishing sword carried Yi Chen, turning into a cold sword light, shooting out, shuttling through the air. Sword Dragon Art. The moment Yi Chen entered the life and death realm, he had already surpassed the realm of 42 swords. The evil shattering sword flickered and split into 42 sword images. The sword images quickly arranged themselves, turning into a sword dragon with an imposing aura as it shot out. Wherever it went, the spatial power scattered. My soul power and Jin Yuan have increased tremendously, and the power of my defensive sword spell has increased by more than 10 times. When he had exchanged the defensive sword technique with Sichu Hao, Yi Chen knew that the defensive sword technique had great potential, especially for him, who had a mutated soul. With the defensive sword technique, even if his comprehension of power Upanishads wasn't the same as the others, it would still bring him endless glory, and he could compete with the heroes of the world. Big Dipper 7-star Sword Art. 33 swords could be used to execute the Sword Snake Art, 42 swords could be used to execute the Sword Dragon Art, and 49 swords could be used to execute an even more powerful sword art, Big Dipper 7-star Sword Art. Starlight flickered around the evil vanquishing sword, and 7 different sword images appeared. These 7 sword images were arranged in the shape of the Big Dipper 7-star, brimming with killing intent. Go! Yi Chen shouted in a low voice. Kai 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 kai. Like a storm of pear blossoms, like rain hitting the banana leaves, the 7 sword shadows turned into 49, and the 49 sword shadows turned into nothingness, hiding in the void. In an instant, only starlight could be seen flickering, and the sword shadows could not be seen. It was like a sky full of stars, shrouding the front, and there was no way to dodge or hide. This defensive sword art is indeed powerful. It was Yi Chen's first time using the Big Dipper 7-star sword art. There were some flaws in it, but its might could already be seen. It could not be looked down upon. Speaking of which, trading spiritual sword for Sichu Hao's defensive sword art back then was my profit. He didn't expect my soul to be different from ordinary people. Alright, now that I'm a life and death king, I should compensate him a little. Actually, even if Yi Chen didn't compensate Sichu Hao, the latter wouldn't say anything. The exchange of the defensive sword art was completely fair. However, Yi Chen always followed his heart, and would never go against it. For him, cultivating the martial Dao and sword Dao was also cultivating the heart. If one was open and aboveboard, one would have great accomplishments. If one was insidious, one would also have great accomplishments. As long as one didn't go against his heart, everything would be fine. Days passed by, and the Big Dipper 7-star sword art became more and more skillful in Yi Chen's hands, and its killing power became increasingly fierce. Meanwhile, Yi Chen's soul power and Jin Yuan were also becoming more and more compatible with Yi Chen. There was not the slightest barrier between them, and he was not far from being able to wield the sword with just a thought. On this day, Yi Chen appeared above the ocean. This place is not far from Monkey Island. How about paying a visit? According to Iron Monkey King's map, Yi Chen sensed that he was only a bit more than 10 million li away from Monkey Island, which could be reached in a cup of tea's time. Monkey Island, Old Chang, this is the last bottle of wine. If you finish it, you'll only get another one next year. You'd better save it. Beside the hot spring at the center of the island, Iron Monkey King and Annika Spear King sat across from each other on a stone table. Iron Monkey King painfully took out a bottle of wine. The bottle was yellow in color and looked very unremarkable. Annika Spear King unceremoniously took the bottle, opened the cork, and drank half of it in one gulp. Delicious, this one sip can increase my cultivation base by half a year. It's a pity that it's too little. Monkey, you say the same thing every year. Can't you try something new? I know you must be hiding a lot of monkey wine. Iron Monkey King glared at him. You still have the nerve to say that. This year, you've drunk 4 bottles of my wine, and I've only drunk 3.5. Do you think it's easy for me? A man and a beast often quarreled. Every time they didn't quarrel, they would feel that something was missing. Of course, this didn't mean that the two didn't have a good relationship. On the contrary, Their relationship was so good that they would go through life and death together. Although Anika Spear King would come every once in a while to freeload for wine, he also spent a lot of effort and money to collect the ingredients for brewing the wine for Iron Monkey King. Iron Monkey King wasn't stingy either. Every time Anika Spear King came, he would give him a bottle of wine. Laughing, Anika Spear King said, "Stop glaring at me. I know you're hiding the wine to wait for Yi Chen's visit. We still owe him a life. I still don't know when he will come." Iron Monkey King was the most straightforward. He was afraid that he wouldn't be around when Yi Chen came. Thus, he simply shut himself in and stayed on the island. He even asked Anika Spear King to collect the ingredients to brew more top-grade monkey wine. No rush. At most, we'll pay him a visit when there's news of him. Anika Spear King took a sip of the wine, savoring the aftertaste. That's true. Iron Monkey King took out a half-full bottle of monkey wine and started drinking. Hey! Someone is coming. Suddenly, Anika Spear King's brows twitched and he put down the bottle. Who is it? Iron Monkey King stood up. His soul-sensing ability was inferior to Anika Spear King. Speak of Yi Chen, and Yi Chen will be here. Monkey, why aren't you going to welcome him? Anika Spear King smiled. He's really here? Iron Monkey King grinned. At this moment, a clear voice echoed, "This he has suddenly come to visit. I hope I didn't disturb you." As soon as the voice arrived, a blue-robed youngster appeared outside the island and flew toward the center of the island. Who else could it be but Yi Chen? Where are you? Iron Monkey King and Anika Spear King went up to welcome him. Hey! You've entered life and death realm? Anika Spear King's gaze turned sluggish as he asked. Yi Chen nodded and said, "I was lucky enough to cross the life and death calamity. Indeed a peerless genius. Even before entering life and death realm, you can contend against life and death kings. Once you break through, you can go anywhere in the world." Anika Spear King sighed inwardly. Before Yi Chen entered life and death realm, although he had the strength to contend against life and death realm experts, life and death kings who didn't know him would inevitably look down on him, not treating him as an existence of the same level. But now, Yi Chen had become a life and death king, and no one dared to look down on him anymore. His status had changed drastically, and it was incomparable to before. Life and death realm was a symbol of strength as well as status. It was the highest existence in Elysium, and its significance was enormous. Come, this way. Beside the hot spring, Iron Monkey King added a stone stool and waved his hand on the stone table. Amidst a flicker of light, 3 pots of brightly colored fruits appeared. One was a banana-shaped green fruit, one was a long and sized yellow fruit, and the last one was a jewel-like orange fruit. As soon as these fruits came into contact with the air, the fragrance of the 3 completely different kinds assailed one's nostrils. Clearly, they were not ordinary fruits. This was not the end. Iron Monkey King took out 3 more bottles of monkey wine, one for each of them. Yi Chen, this is supreme grade monkey wine. Have a taste first. Iron Monkey King looked at Yi Chen hopefully. Yi Chen couldn't help but laugh. Uncorking the bottle, he lightly took a sip. Good wine. Yi Chen's eyes brightened. This monkey wine was extremely viscous. Holding it in his mouth, the wine energy rose, clearing his mind. Swallowing it into his stomach, the wine energy instantly spread throughout his body. Not a single part of his body felt uncomfortable. Most importantly, this wine energy contained extremely rich heaven and earth energy. Circulating Jin Yuan, the energy was instantly refined into Jin Yuan. A single mouthful had increased his cultivation base by dozens of days, and this mouthful was merely 1/20th of the entire bottle. If he drank the entire bottle, his cultivation base for a year wouldn't be able to escape. You two are truly enjoying yourselves. This is my first time seeing a wine that can increase one's cultivation base. Yi Chen couldn't help but take another big gulp. Only then did he put down the bottle and say. Iron Monkey King's brows rose in delight as he said, "I won't hide it from you. Brewing supreme grade monkey wine is not something that every demonic king of Monkey Clan can do. Last time, a life and death king came to buy my wine brewing method, but I didn't even pay him any attention. Come, have some fruits. These fruits pair well with monkey wine." They are quite beneficial to the body. This is the green mist fruit, this is the earth fragrance fruit, and this is the gem fruit. Yi Chen tasted a few of each fruit. The taste was pretty good, and they were quite nourishing to the body. After Yi Chen finished drinking and eating, the three started chatting. Chapter 9:12. Originally, I thought that after cultivating to life and death realm, I would be free and unfettered, not needing to work as hard as before. I could do whatever I wanted and easily live for 1,000 years. Unfortunately, we're living in a chaotic world. Chaotic worlds give birth to heroes, but at the same time, there will inevitably be a lot of dark turbulence. If we want to preserve our lives and not fall prematurely, we can only continuously strengthen ourselves. Anika Spear King took a sip of monkey wine and smiled bitterly. Yi Chen asked curiously, "Brother Chang, you've also heard of this?" As far as he knew, the number of people who knew about the otherworldly experts should be few and far between. How could we not know? There are many circles among life and death kings, and different circles have more or less the same people. Some secret information, as long as it's said, will spread to every circle. Of course, what we know is only the external information. As for the deeper secrets, we don't know much about them. Anika Spear King explained. So that's how it is. As Brother Chang said, this era is not stable. Otherworldly experts are eyeing us like tigers preying on their prey. Otherworldly demons are a great threat to our Elysium. You too might not know, but when I was undergoing my tribulation, some demons sent puppets to kill me. Later on, 2 demon kings of demons personally came. Fortunately, I managed to escape. Yi Chen didn't conceal anything and told Anika Spear King and Iron Monkey King about some of his experiences. You were chased by demons. Anika Spear King and Iron Monkey King were shocked. Demonic race was a race from another world that was above the human race. Under the condition that their cultivation bases were equal, the demonic race would have the upper hand. But then again, the fact that Yi Chen could escape from the hands of 2 demon kings was enough to shock the world. It should be known that the demonic race was not stupid. This kind of assassination plan had to have been carefully prepared. If it were any other peerless genius, they would have fallen long ago. Brother Yi, you'll be in danger in the future. Back then, Xianhu was also chased. Although she's still alive and well, as long as there's a chance, the demons won't give up on killing her. The one speaking was Iron Monkey King. Yi Chen smiled, "Don't worry. Although Yi Chen is still far from being unparalleled, it won't be that easy for the demons to kill me. Since coming to this world, Yi Chen had experienced countless dangers. He had long cultivated the ability to remain calm even if the sky collapsed. He wouldn't be frightened by the demons." Anika Spear King admired Yi Chen's heroic spirit, but he still said worriedly, "The demons have come. I'm afraid that the curtains have already been opened. I'm afraid that we are just small and can only and go with the flow of it." The atmosphere couldn't help but become a bit heavy. After a long while, Iron Monkey King suddenly said to Yi Chen, "Brother Yi, you've already become a life and death king, but you still don't have your own title. According to the rules of Elysium, you have to go to the Bestowal King Palace within a year and obtain your own title. Otherwise, the palace spirit will directly send you there. If Monkey didn't mention it, I would have forgotten to remind you." Anika Spear King also said, "Bestowal King Palace?" Battle King's memories didn't contain any information regarding Bestowal King Palace. Iron Monkey King explained, "Bestowal King Palace has existed since ancient times. I only know that the kings of Elysium obtain their titles from Bestowal King Palace. Every king's title is permanently engraved on the Bestowal King pillar at the center of Bestowal King Palace. As for the palace spirit, it is the spirituality of Bestowal King Palace. It is not weak in intelligence, and controls the rules of Bestowal King Palace. In the end, the title is also decided by it. Then, do I choose the title myself, or does the palace spirit choose it?" Yi Chen asked. "It's decided by the palace spirit. Of course, you can also reject it and have it changed to another one as long as it meets the requirements." "Oh." Yi Chen nodded. "All right." Anika Spear King added, "Before the title, The palace spirit will arrange an illusory opponent for you according to your battle strength. Then, it will choose the most suitable title for you based on your battle style. Under normal circumstances, the majority of life and death kings will be satisfied with the title the palace spirit chooses. Is that so? Since it's within a year, I'm not in a hurry. Yi Chen didn't plan to obtain his own title immediately. Annika Spear King said, "Indeed, you don't have to rush. In my opinion, Brother Yi has a chance of obtaining the Sword King title and shattering the ancient Sword King's legend." Sword King title. Iron Monkey King's eyes opened wide. Among the many special titles, the Sword King title was the most difficult to obtain. Blade King, Spear King, Axe King, they were all a bit lower. The main reason was that the Sword King title was too special. The other Blade Kings, Spear Kings, and Axe Kings all eventually became emperors, becoming Blade Emperors, Spear Emperors, and Axe Emperors. Only the Sword King didn't become an emperor. Moreover, in the next several 100,000 years, no one was able to obtain the Sword King title, let alone Sword Emperor or Sword Emperor. If Yi Chen wanted to obtain the Sword King title, he could only surpass the ancient Sword King at the same time. Anything is possible. The reason why the ancient Sword King couldn't be surpassed was mainly because he was indeed a stunning genius. When he died, he was only 50 years old. If he had lived a few more years, he might have become the first monarch in history. However, the ancients were meant to be surpassed. Nobody could surpass him in the past, but that doesn't mean nobody can now. In fact, in the years after the ancient Sword King, there were people who surpassed the Sword King in Sword Dao. However, none of them reached the Sword King level at the age of 50. It was all due to the accumulation of time. Among the Sword Kings at the same time, the ancient Sword King was truly the first. However, Annika Spear King still had a premonition that a miracle might happen to Yi Chen. "Thank you for the compliment. I will try my best." Yi Chen admired the ancient Sword King. He also believed that if the Sword King had lived a few more years, he would have achieved several times more. Even if he couldn't become the first monarch in history, he would at least be in the top 3. "Come, let's drink. We will congratulate Brother Yi in advance for obtaining the Sword King title." Iron Monkey King had always been carefree. After hearing Annika Spear King's words, he also took it to heart. Time passed quickly. 3 days later, Yi Chen left Monkey Island. Before leaving, Iron Monkey King gave Yi Chen 3 small jars of monkey wine. One jar was equivalent to 3 bottles. Originally, he wanted to give 5 jars, but Yi Chen knew that Iron Monkey King had spent a lot of effort and resources to brew this monkey wine. According to Annika Spear King, 1 jar of monkey wine would take a year to brew. Of course, if the time was tight, 3 jars could also be brewed in a year. However, generally, there weren't so many materials. The materials needed to be collected slowly. Time was one thing, but the brewing materials were all top grade and priceless. How could Yi Chen accept 5 jars from the other party? Although supreme grade monkey wine can increase cultivation base, drinking it all at once is too wasteful. It's not bad to use it to entertain friends. Life and Death Kings had a noble status. Sometimes, other Life and Death Kings would come knocking on their doors. After a long time, they would form a circle, and it would be too shameful if they didn't have anything good to entertain their guests. Yi Chen pondered for a moment. He wanted to find some spirit tree nurturing fluid to mature the fire pear tree. If the fire pear tree became a supreme grade spirit tree, its fire pears would also be good for entertaining guests. Let's return to Eternal Sky Sect first. After researching the second style of vibrational sword arts, I'll officially return to True Spirit Continent. High-level 4-star battle strength was not enough to intimidate the crowd. If Yi Chen were to return, he would have to return with absolute strength. And right now, he was still lacking something. Soon, Yi Chen returned to Eternal Sky Sect. On the second day, everyone in Eternal Sky Sect knew that Yi Chen had entered Life and Death Realm. My Eternal Sky Sect finally has a Life and Death King. From now on, who would dare to offend my Eternal Sky Sect? Haha. The leader of Eternal Sky Sect, Li Zhongfeng, was ecstatic. Having a Life and Death King was extremely important. Without a Life and Death King, Eternal Sky Sect would not have enough deterrence. Those sects who dared to offend them would also have to consider the consequences of offending a life and death king. It was especially so for those life and death kings who specialized in speed. If they were offended, there would be trouble in the future. Even if they didn't dare to attack your sect, they could easily kill your disciples or disciples. Life and death kings would either not make enemies, or once they did, it would be a death grudge. Therefore, under normal circumstances, life and death kings would rarely intentionally offend others. The shock of Eternal Sky Sect didn't distract Yi Chen, who was wholeheartedly researching the second style of vibrational sword arts. Swoosh! A cloth-tearing sound was heard as Yi Chen slashed out with his sword. The sword light was extremely clear, and if one were to magnify it 100 times, they would find that the sword light was actually vibrating at an extremely high frequency. But, because the vibrating speed was too fast, people couldn't feel the vibrations at all. It looked extremely clear, no different from an ordinary sword attack. Bang! The opposite mountain peak was suddenly cut in the middle, causing dust to fill the sky. The thin mountain peak in the middle was directly turned into powder by the sword light. The cross-section of the mountain peak was as smooth as marble. Not good, the metal profound and the vibrating power are not harmonized. One knew one's own strength well. This sword seemed to be majestic, but in fact, there were many flaws in the details. In other words, the technique was not enough. It would be fine against ordinary opponents, but against kings like Demonic Blade King who were proficient in vibrating power, the technique would be at a disadvantage. Of course, Yi Chen could obtain victory with absolute strength. However, Yi Chen preferred to surpass the opponent in terms of technique as well. Hey! Someone's coming. On this day, a man and a woman arrived at Eternal Sky Sect. The man was a skinny middle-aged man with a trace of faint blade chi on his body. The blade chi was extremely exquisite, like a spring breeze caressing one's face. The woman following behind him had an extremely young appearance. Her appearance was charming and elegant, but she was Demonic Blade Sect's disciple, Lan Sanmai. The two didn't directly arrive at Yi Chen's place. Instead, they politely landed on Eternal Sky Sect's main peak plaza. I truly didn't expect him to become a life and death king so quickly. The middle-aged man sighed with emotion. Originally, he was prepared to help Yi Chen when he was in danger. Sending charcoal in snowy weather was always better than adding flowers to a brocade. However, his plan couldn't keep up with the changes, causing him to miss the opportunity to befriend the latter. Fortunately, his disciple, Lan Sanmai, had a good relationship with Yi Chen. After learning that Yi Chen had entered life and death realm, he personally paid a visit with Lan Sanmai. Chapter 9:13. Your luck is very good. Such a rare genius was actually encountered by you, and you even became friends with him. Although we cultivators have our pride and dislike bowing and scraping, human resources are indispensable. Back then, Mysterious Queen smoothly entered life and death realm and became an influential figure of True Spirit Continent because of Dragon King's shadow. This Yi Chen has the shadow of both Dragon King and Mysterious Queen behind him. Compared to them, I'm still far behind, and my words don't carry much weight. On the other hand, this Yi Chen will certainly become an influential figure of True Spirit Continent in the future. The middle-aged man was precisely Demonic Blade Sect's leader, Demonic Blade King. His battle strength had reached 3-star, and he was quite famous in Blood Sky Continent. However, in Elysium, 3-star battle strength didn't have much of a say. 4-star battle strength was barely enough, and only 5-star battle strength could make a difference. Everyone had to give face to him. With the arrival of the Age of Turmoil, having a powerful king as a backer was a must. Without a backer and ordinary strength, one could easily fall. Master, and Yi Chen have known each other for a period of time. I can see that he is a person who values friendship. If we treat him with sincerity, he will treat us with sincerity as well. If we only want to get close to him, he won't want to have a deep relationship with us. Lan Sanmai reminded Demonic Blade King. You're right. It's only reasonable for us to be friends with him, not to befriend him with ulterior motives. How could Demonic Blade King not understand this logic? Demonic Blade King and Miss Lan's arrival brings light to Eternal Sky Sect. I apologize for not going out to meet you. In the palace, Li Zhongfeng personally came out to greet them with a smile. Demonic Blade King faintly nodded. Originally, with his status, he wouldn't have anything to do with a late Sea of Soul Realm martial artist like Li Zhongfeng. However, with Yi Chen behind him, his status immediately changed. Sect leader Li, we've come to find Yi Chen. Lan Sanmai said politely. Li Zhongfeng said, Elder Yi is training in the core area of the mountain range. I've already sent someone to inform him. Why don't you two go to the guest palace and have some tea? All right. The Demonic Blade King nodded. As the two of them strode forward, a sword light approached from afar and landed on the square. It was Yi Chen. Miss Lan, Yi Chen smiled at Lan Sanmai, then his gaze fell on the Demonic Blade King. And this is? Lan Sanmai introduced. Yi Chen, this is my master, the Demonic Saber King. He is also the sect leader of the Demonic Saber sect. As she spoke, she sized up Yi Chen. Compared to before, Yi Chen's body was emitting a frightening pressure. This pressure couldn't be concealed at all. Even if Yi Chen had restrained his king's aura, he couldn't restrain this pressure. After entering life and death realm, one's soul and Jin Yuan would both sublimate. Even if he didn't do it intentionally, it would still make people under life and death realm feel oppressed. Once a life and death king intentionally released his pressure, people under life and death realm would lose all desire to attack. Of course, some peak geniuses were exceptions. Her master, Demonic Blade King, had a pressure, but it didn't seem as powerful as Yi Chen's. So it's Demonic Blade King. Welcome. Yi Chen cupped his fists. Demonic Blade King smiled. I hope you don't take offense to my sudden visit. I heard that you've entered life and death realm, and now that I've seen you, the rumors are indeed true. This Lan congratulates you first. Demonic Blade King also cupped his fists. This way, please. Yi Chen's right hand gestured toward his mountain peak and said to Li Zhongfeng, Sect leader, I'll take care of them. All right. Li Zhongfeng knew that it had nothing to do with him. However, a king personally paying a visit to Eternal Sky Sect would give them a lot of face. The three flew to Yi Chen's Elder's Peak and landed beside a pavilion. The pavilion was situated at the highest point of the mountain peak, and there were stone tables and chairs inside. Sitting inside, one could see the sea of clouds flowing beneath one's feet. The moist wind blew gently, giving one a feeling of not knowing the passage of time outside the mountain. As for the monkey wine, since the two sides weren't familiar with each other, Yi Chen naturally wouldn't take it out to receive Demonic Blade King. Fortunately, he had prepared a few precious tea sets and many top-grade teas. After boiling the water, Yi Chen poured the tea for Demonic Blade King and Lan Sanmai. The tea's fragrance filled the air. After pouring the tea, Yi Chen took out a fire pear from his plant ring and placed it on the stone table. Good fruit. Demonic Blade King ate a pear and couldn't help but praise. I don't have anything to receive you. I've made a fool of myself in front of Demonic Blade King. Yi Chen held the teacup as the mountain breeze fluttered his blue robes and ink-black hair. Brother Yi hasn't had his title yet, right? Demonic Blade King suddenly asked. Putting down the teacup, Yi Chen said, No rush. I'll go to the title palace in a few days. Oh, that's good too. It's not a good thing to go early. Demonic Blade King nodded and looked at Lan Sanmai with a smile. I heard from my that Brother Yi has also developed a sword art that contains vibration power, which is similar to the demonic blade spell. I believe that I have made some progress in the research of vibration power. How about we spar? Yi Chen looked at Demonic Blade King in astonishment. The latter's words clearly indicated that he wanted to use this opportunity to teach him some techniques related to vibration power. Although Yi Chen's comprehension was extremely high, his accumulation was not even 1/10 of Demonic Blade King's. With the latter's guidance, he could save a lot of time and avoid many detours. Of course, that would be for the best. Regardless of the other's goal, Yi Chen would not miss this opportunity. If the other wanted to befriend him, then he had succeeded. In fact, Demonic Blade King's proposal to spar with Yi Chen was not only to teach him some vibration power techniques, but also to see what extent Yi Chen's battle strength had reached after entering life and death realm. This was something that many people in the know would want to know, and he would be the first to know. The two didn't choose any other place to spar. This time, the two had decided not to use Jin Yuan or will, and would only use blade arts and sword arts. The range wouldn't be too large. Above the sea of clouds, the two stood 100 meters apart. Beside the sea of clouds, Lan Sanmai sat alone in a pavilion, drinking tea while watching the battle. "Brother Yi, be careful." Demonic Blade King pulled out his black long blade, its edge flickering with a cold light. "You be careful too." Yi Chen's right hand grasped the evil vanquishing sword's hilt and slowly pulled it out. Ding! Demonic Blade King's speed was extremely fast. His figure flickered, and he appeared before Yi Chen, slashing out with a black blade light. Demonic Blade King's speed was fast, but Yi Chen's reaction was not slow. The evil vanquishing sword blocked Demonic Blade King's long blade, and the vibration power surged forward. Buzz! A large amount of ripples spread out, turning the sea of clouds into nothingness. Good! Demonic Blade King laughed heartily, slashing again and again at Yi Chen. Each slash was faster than the previous, as if there was no end to it. The powerful vibration power was completely restrained on the blade, and only erupted when it came into contact with Yi Chen's evil vanquishing sword. If it were an ordinary king, their weapon would have been sent flying, and their arms would have been injured, spurting blood. However, Yi Chen was also proficient in vibration power. Demonic Blade King was exchanging pointers with ordinary blade arts, so it was naturally easy for him to deal with it. This Yi Chen's achievements in vibration power are truly terrifying. In such a short amount of time, he was able to use vibration power to such a degree. He is indeed a rare genius that only appears once in 10,000 years. The more they exchanged pointers, the more shocked Demonic Blade King became. With ordinary blade arts, he was unable to do anything to Yi Chen. Although Yi Chen's achievements in vibration power were slightly weaker than his, Yi Chen's sword angle was much better than his. Every time his long blade came into contact with Yi Chen's sword, 10% of his power would be wasted. Ding! 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 Dazzling sparks danced in the sea of clouds. These sparks seemed to have a mind of their own. Sometimes, they would spin in the air, sometimes they would fly up and down, and sometimes they would shoot out in a straight line. Every time they clashed, the sparks would have different trajectories that were hard to grasp. Take my demonic slash. Demonic Blade King gripped his blade with both hands, and with a low roar, he slashed out. Compared to Lan Sanmai, demonic slash was more than 10 times stronger in Demonic Blade King's hands. The blade light was not blurry at all, and it stuck close to the edge of the blade, sparkling and translucent. I also have a sky-cutting sword. Yi Chen neither retreated nor dodged, instead using the first style of vibrational sword art, sky-cutting sword. Ang! Bing! Peng! Numerous sounds erupted at the same time. The two of them did not move. Their swords and sabers clashed against each other. However, the surrounding sea of clouds suddenly trembled. Then, it was cut by the vibrating power. Catcher! 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 Several huge mountains nearby were cut by the invisible power. Mountain rocks tumbled down. It should be known that the two did not use Jin Yuan or will, and only used blade arts and sword arts to exchange pointers. Even so, the ripples that spread out were still inconceivably huge. Boom! The vibrating power completely exploded, and a twisting mass of air exploded, sending the two flying. Amazing! The next blade is called Rampage Demonic Blade, which I spent 10 years to create. Brother Yi, watch carefully. Demonic Blade Arts and Demonic Slash were blade arts passed down in Demonic Blade Sect. Meanwhile, Lan Sanmei's Destruction Slash and Demonic Blade King's Rampage Demonic Blade were both killing moves created based on Demonic Blade Arts and Demonic Slash. Lan Sanmei's Destruction Slash had not been completed yet, but there were already signs of it. Demonic Blade King's Rampage Demonic Blade had already reached perfection. Raising his black blade horizontally, Demonic Blade King gave a low roar, and his whole body shot out in a straight line. This blade strike was like a thunderous roar, vividly displaying the explosive power. What a powerful blade move! Yi Chen's pupils shrank. Demonic Blade King's blade had shaken his mind, and he subconsciously thought that he would not be able to block it. The second style of vibrational sword art had not been completed yet, but Yi Chen did not care. Kai. The sound of cloth tearing resounded as Yi Chen's hair fluttered in the wind, and his sword light shone brightly. Clang. The sound of metal exploding and twisting resounded as the two's blades and swords clashed fiercely. The sparks were as bright as the sun and moon, dancing around the two. With a muffled groan, Yi Chen's whole body shot out. The clothes on his right arm had been torn to shreds, scattering in all directions like butterflies, accompanied by a trace of blood. Chapter 9:14. Too powerful. The vibrational energy condensed into one and exploded at the moment of contact. Yi Chen felt that his right arm was already numb, and his bones were sore. Being able to hold on to the evil shattering sword without losing control was already the best he could do. Stabilizing his body with all his might, Yi Chen operated the undying body and healed the hidden injuries on his right arm. Then, he said in admiration, "What a good rampaging demonic blade. Yi Chen has seen it for himself. Dare I ask, Demonic Blade King, how much strength did you use in this blade?" How could he not feel that Demonic Blade King had not used his full strength? If he had, it wouldn't have been as simple as a light injury on his right arm. His bones would have been shattered and his muscles would have disintegrated. Of course, it was impossible for Yi Chen to not know his limits. This was just a spar, and neither side used Jinyuan or will. About 30%. Demonic Blade King said honestly. Although he knew that Demonic Blade King had not used his full strength, hearing that he had only used 30% still made Yi Chen a bit dazed. This Demonic Blade King was not to be underestimated. No wonder he was a peak existence amongst high-step kings. Just this rampaging demonic blade alone was something that few high-step kings could block. "Brother Yi, do you want to try again?" Demonic Blade King asked. Of course. Yi Chen's heart itched. After the spar with Demonic Blade King, he had gained a new understanding of vibrational energy, especially the last rampaging demonic blade, which made him feel enlightened. 40% of this attack. Demonic Blade King reminded before shooting out again. His blade was like thunder, and the blade light was extremely restrained, as if it could even devour sunlight. Yi Chen's expression was solemn as he gripped the evil vanquishing sword with both hands and slashed out vertically. Clang! Sparks exploded, and a berserk chi wave swept out in all directions. In the next instant, a small mountain nearby collapsed, sending rocks flying everywhere. Just like last time, Yi Chen's right arm was sore and powerless. Blood spurted out as he shot out. Improvement. Demonic Blade King's expression froze. At 30%, Yi Chen was like this. At 40%, Yi Chen was still like this. If this wasn't improvement, what was? Amazing. The Demonic Blade King was shocked by Yi Chen's comprehension and learning ability. Again, Yi Chen had already healed the internal injuries on his right arm. "Alright, I'll use half of my strength this time." Taking a deep breath, the Demonic Saber King was extremely precise. He executed the same saber technique as before without the slightest error. However, this time, the explosive power of the saber technique was a level higher. It was like a sudden clap of thunder or a flash flood. Catcher. This was the sound of bones breaking. Yi Chen's right arm was bleeding profusely. "I can't keep up with my progress." Yi Chen's chest tightened, and there was a taste of blood in his throat. The further one went, the harder it was to learn the vibrational power. In the beginning, Yi Chen was able to keep up with the Demonic Blade King's rhythm, but later on, he couldn't keep up. In the end, he was still a human, not a god. The rate of improvement couldn't be that great forever. It would eventually slow down. "Will the next strike still use half of my strength?" the Demonic Blade King asked. "It's fine. 60%. The Demonic Blade King gradually increased the power of his saber, giving him a sense of urgency. He didn't want this sense of urgency to disappear. Humans were strange creatures. The more pressured they were, the greater their potential would be. Of course, there had to be a limit, or else they would collapse. Then, be careful. The demonic Blade King understood Yi Chen's thoughts and attacked once again. This time, the muscles of Yi Chen's right arm disintegrated, and his bones broke inch by inch. Using his weakness to clash with the demonic Blade King's strength, the result was naturally miserable. It was like a high-grade king who didn't use his own killing move, but instead used the unfamiliar vibrational power to clash with the demonic Blade King. The result wouldn't be any better. He probably wouldn't even be able to receive 120% of the demonic Blade King's power. Stop for a while. Yi Chen suddenly stopped. It wasn't that he couldn't bear it, but he had comprehended too much at once, and he didn't have time to digest it. The more time he wasted, the more his inspiration would disappear. Therefore, after saying this, he immediately closed his eyes. I've comprehended something. The demonic Blade King understood. He stood in the air and waited quietly. So that's how it is. Yi Chen wasn't the only one who had comprehended something. Lan Sanmai also had some comprehension. Her demonic blade arts were the same as the demonic Blade King's. Although she didn't personally experience the demonic Blade King's demonic blade, she still benefited a lot from watching from the side. After all, she was different from Yi Chen. Yi Chen had his own path, and he also cultivated sword arts. Lan Sanmai, on the other hand, cultivated the demonic blade arts that had been passed down since the founding of the demonic blade sect. Her heart surging, Lan Sanmai couldn't help but take out her long blade and practice. The wind and rain in the outside world had nothing to do with Yi Chen. He was immersed in comprehending the vibrational power. In his mind, the demonic Blade King's image attacked him again and again. The movements became slower and clearer, as if it had been slowed down by 1,000 times. Each movement could be seen clearly. His soul power was 10 times that of an ordinary person, which made Yi Chen's simulation ability extraordinary. His analysis ability could be said to be terrifying. Oh, right. Just like this. Yi Chen didn't open his eyes. He held the evil vanquishing sword and casually waved it. Once. Twice. After dozens of times, Yi Chen opened his eyes. This time, I'll use 60%. Yi Chen said to the demonic Blade King. The demonic Blade King nodded. Clang. The result shocked the demonic Blade King. Last time, Yi Chen's arm muscles were disintegrated, and his bones were broken. This time, Yi Chen only had some cracks in his muscles, but his bones weren't broken. His comprehension is too terrifying. For the first time, the demonic Blade King felt a chill from a certain person's comprehension. As expected, Yi Chen finally found the right path. The demonic Blade King's future was still ahead, but the path he was studying was wrong. Or to be more accurate, he had taken a detour. Therefore, no matter how hard he tried, he could only approach perfection. Now that he was sparring with the demonic Blade King, he was guided to the right path, and his improvement was starting to become obvious. At 70%, Yi Chen once again experienced the pain of his right arm being torn apart. However, he quickly adapted to the 70% and began to move towards 80%. This kid is definitely a freak. He actually improved so much in one day. The demonic Blade King couldn't understand why Yi Chen's improvement was so great. It was beyond his imagination, breaking common sense. In his opinion, no matter how talented a genius was, there had to be a process of gradual improvement. No one could do it in one go. If there was someone who could do it, that person would be a god. Of course, he didn't know that Yi Chen had been studying the second style of the vibrational sword art for a long time. Because he had taken a detour, he had stagnated. The demonic Blade King's appearance had allowed Yi Chen to return to the right path. Adding on his previous accumulation, his improvement was naturally godly, and his comprehension of the vibrational force was suddenly enlightened. Apart from this, one couldn't ignore the fact that Yi Chen's comprehension was indeed ridiculously strong. 10 times the comprehension of an ordinary person was already a great miracle. The rampant demonic Blade King reached 80%, and its power suddenly rose to a whole new level. After 10 consecutive exchanges, Yi Chen still couldn't close the gap. This made him understand that the accumulation of studying the second style of the vibrational sword art had been used up. Just by relying on his comprehension, It would be difficult to digest so much information in a short period of time. Slightly embarrassed, Yi Chen said, "Demonic Blade King, let's call it a day. Have you been busy recently?" "Okay." The Demonic Blade King heaved a sigh of relief. Yi Chen's mind was tired, and he was also a little tired from the shock of Yi Chen's comprehension. "I've been busy recently, but Maya and I will disturb you for a few days. It won't be troublesome, right?" The Demonic Blade King's thoughts were clear, and he immediately guessed what Yi Chen was thinking. In fact, if it were him instead of Yi Chen, he most likely wouldn't be willing to part with such a good sparring partner. "It's not troublesome at all. I just wanted to keep you for a few days," Yi Chen generously admitted. The Demonic Blade King had worked hard to spar with him, so Yi Chen naturally had to properly entertain him. Returning to the pavilion, he took out a jar of monkey wine and 3 cups from his storage ring. "This is a supreme-grade monkey wine gifted to me by a friend. Have a taste." Yi Chen filled the cups for the two. The Demonic Blade King sniffed it, and his eyes brightened as he gulped it down. "Good wine. I've never tasted such good wine before. No, this wine can increase cultivation base." The viscous monkey wine entered his stomach, and its energy was immediately refined into Jin Yuan. It was extremely pure. Lan Sanmai drank a mouthful, but her face turned red and her body heated up. The energy contained in the wine was too pure, making the wine extremely potent. Even with her cultivation base that had yet to reach life and death realm, she immediately became drunk. The Jin Yuan in her body surged, and she almost lost control and exploded. She couldn't help but glance at Yi Chen in reproach. Yi Chen smiled. "This supreme-grade monkey wine takes 1 year to brew. 1 cup can increase a life and death king's cultivation base by 1 month. Truly good wine." Demonic Blade King couldn't help but glance at the wine jar on the stone table. In fact, increasing cultivation base was secondary. With Demonic Blade King's cultivation base, a cup of monkey wine would be useless. However, after reaching life and death realm, ordinary wine would be tasteless if it were cold water. He had also learned how to brew wine, but unfortunately, he could only brew upper-grade wine. How could it compare to supreme-grade monkey wine? "Come." Yi Chen filled Demonic Blade King's cup once again. On the same day, Lan Sanmai went to bed early. Yi Chen and Demonic Blade King emptied the jar of monkey wine and became somewhat drunk. 5 days passed in a flash. On this day, Yi Chen and Demonic Blade King continued exchanging pointers. "Yi Chen, you've put in a lot of effort this time. No one in the same realm can receive my rampage demonic blade without being affected." Demonic Blade King held the black long blade with both hands and reminded, "This sword of mine is also close to perfection. I have to thank you for these 5 days of guidance." In these 5 days, Yi Chen had gained a deeper understanding of the vibration power. Before, he had been walking an unorthodox path, and the reason why he was able to improve so fast was because of his high comprehension ability. Without this advantage, it would be hard for him to make any progress with the vibration power. "All right, take this." Demonic Blade King's blade slashed horizontally, causing a thunderous explosion. Sucking in a deep breath, Yi Chen's eyes erupted with an astonishing radiance. As the sword slashed out, the surrounding Yuan Qi seemed to have lost its core, and the space seemed to have refracted. It was as if this sword was not a sword, but a beam of light. Peng! The two remained motionless. In the next moment, Demonic Blade King's right arm trembled violently. Countless sharp qi surged out of it like a small tornado wreaking havoc. "What is this sword called?" Demonic Blade King asked after losing his right arm. "Let's call it Heaven Wounding Sword." Chapter 9:15. Heaven Wounding Sword, Vibrational Sword Spells Second Style. It was different from the Heaven Splitting Sword. The Heaven Hurting Sword transmitted the vibration power into the opponent's body and carried out an internal vibration explosion. Therefore, this required the vibration power to be extremely concentrated, or else it would be consumed prematurely. The reason why the Demonic Blade King was able to receive this sword strike and only lost his right arm was mainly because his vibration power was also very concentrated, so the impact he received was not great. Otherwise, it would not be as simple as his right arm exploding, but his entire body exploding. Amazing. The rampage demon blade that I spent 10 years to create can't even compare to your heaven-wounding sword. How shameful. Demonic Blade King spat out a mouthful of turbid air. This is all thanks to Senior Demonic Blade King's guidance. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to complete this move so quickly. Yi Chen was telling the truth. According to his estimation, it would take him at least 3 months to complete this attack. But, with someone to teach him, it would be a different story. What he did not know was that there were people who had been stuck at a certain level for countless years. But, one day, after being reminded by someone, they would suddenly see a whole new world. Without a powerful comprehension, even if I guide you, it would be useless. The Demonic Blade King shook his head. He had personally experienced the heaven-inflicted sword before, so he was very clear on how frightening this sword was. When the two exchanged blows, neither Zhen Yuan nor will was used, so the lethality of the heaven-inflicted sword was not that great. But, once Zhen Yuan and will were used, the heaven-inflicted sword's lethality would be increased by 100 times, and the gap would be even greater. For example, before Zhen Yuan and will were used, the Rampage Demon Blade's lethality would be 900, and the heaven-inflicted sword's lethality would be 1000. With a difference of 100, the ratio would not increase, but the effect would be completely different. Moreover, Yi Chen's destruction sword intent had reached the 6th step. Combined with heaven-wounding sword, the destructive power could only be described as terrifying. It was definitely a killing weapon. Brother Yi, I want to see you use heaven-wounding sword with all your strength. Would it be troublesome? Demonic Blade King suddenly suggested. All right. Yi Chen agreed without the slightest hesitation. This isn't a good place to test the sword. Let's go somewhere else. Yi Chen said. Of course, let's go to the 3rd layer. Demonic Blade King raised his head. The 3rd heaven was known as Zenith Heaven, which was actually a starry sky. However, this starry sky was confined within Elysium, separated from the starry sky outside by a world barrier. In the starry sky, countless stars twinkled. Some were close, some were far away. Apart from the places where the light of the stars shone, everywhere else was pitch black and silent. This kind of pitch black wasn't pitch black to the point where one couldn't even see their fingers in front of them. Instead, it was the kind of pitch black where one couldn't see how far or how deep it was, as if there was no end to it. After breaking through the 2nd layer of heaven, the extreme void sky, the 3 of them arrived in this starry sky. Although Lan Sanmai was not a life and death king, she had long since gained the strength to break through extreme void. Moreover, it was not her first time coming to this starry sky. She was very familiar with the gravity-free environment here, and didn't lose her composure. On the other hand, it was Yi Chen's first time coming to the starry sky. Breaking through extreme void sky required extremely powerful strength. When Yi Chen was still a mid-step half-step king, he didn't have the strength to do so. Later on, he became a high-step half-step king and went to life and death secret realm. Thereafter, Yi Chen's advancement speed was too fast, and he didn't even have time to comprehend life and death Dao and study martial skills. How could he have the opportunity to enter the starry sky? Is this the starry sky? Yi Chen felt as if his mind had received a huge impact. Those countless stars, that boundless, deep, and immeasurable darkness suddenly poured into his mind. The sky was no longer the sky, and the earth was no longer the earth. There was no sky, no earth, and no gravity at all. There was only freedom and solitude. Is this your first time coming to the starry sky? Seeing Yi Chen's expression, Lan Sanmai asked curiously. Yi Chen nodded, not denying it. I really don't know what you're thinking. Back then, when I had the strength to break through extreme void sky, I immediately came to take a look. Lan Sanmai sized up the beautiful starry sky and said. Demonic Blade King smiled, it's not too late to take a look now. However, Brother Yi, the starry sky is different from the space below. The space in the starry sky is extremely stable. Compared to this place, the space below is as fragile as tofu. Therefore, even life and death kings can't break the space here. However, since there's no gravity in the starry sky, and there's no air resistance, The speed of flying here is extremely fast. It's so fast that it'll astonish you. Is that so? Yi Chen's body suddenly shot out. Hoochie. A cyan light streaked across the silent starry sky, instantly reaching an extremely distant region. At the beginning, Yi Chen was still somewhat unable to adapt to the gravity-free and airproof state. However, he soon adjusted. In terms of adapting to the environment, if an ordinary person could do 1/10 as well as Yi Chen, it would already be quite good. Is this his first time coming to the starry sky? Demonic Blade King and Lan Sanmai were somewhat doubtful. Apart from the initial awkwardness, Yi Chen's understanding of the starry sky even surpassed Lan Sanmai's, not inferior to Demonic Blade King's. Without circulating Jin Yuan, Yi Chen naturally floated in the starry sky, thinking inwardly, this speed is even faster than piercing through the void. Seems like Elysium's gravity is too powerful. That's right, Elysium is too huge. Moreover, it's different from ordinary stars, so its gravity is quite normal. As for the resistance, the faster one's speed, the greater the resistance. In the starry sky, it was not that there was no resistance, but it was very small. When one's speed reached a certain level, one could still feel the existence of resistance. Let's choose that star. Jin Yuan wrapped around Lan Sanmai, Demonic Blade King followed closely behind Yi Chen, pointing at a broken star in the distance. That star seemed to have experienced a king-level battle, as it was full of holes. There was a huge piece of land that had even separated from the star. However, due to the star's gravity, this piece of land that was thousands of li in size couldn't be separated too far from the broken star. All right. Circulating his green lotus sword arts, Yi Chen increased his speed and flew over. Thousands of li away, the three stopped. Brother Yi, let me feel the power of your heaven-wounding sword. Demonic Blade King was quite expectant. He really wanted to know how powerful the heaven-wounding sword, which contained king-level Jin Yuan and 6-step destruction sword intent, would be. Perhaps I can destroy it in one sword. Yi Chen smiled. Impossible. Demonic Blade King couldn't believe it. This star was more than 10,000 li in diameter, and he believed that it could be destroyed. But to destroy it in one sword, he didn't dare to believe it. It should be known that destroying 10,000 li of land and destroying a star with a diameter of 10,000 li were two completely different concepts. Destroying 10,000 li of land actually didn't affect the area too deep. On the other hand, the star was round, with a diameter of 10,000 li regardless of direction, the depth was the same. Thus, the difficulty of destroying it increased by more than 10 times. Never tried, but I think it's possible. Yi Chen knew the heaven-wounding sword the best. This kind of concentrated vibration power had an extremely powerful effect. Destroying a star should be similar to destroying a human body. Of course, in order to be absolutely safe, he didn't use the evil shattering sword. Instead, he took out the supreme grade Sky Scorpio sword. With the Sky Scorpio sword in hand, Yi Chen took a deep breath, his eyes bursting with radiance. Go! With a low roar, Yi Chen waved his sword from a distance. Incorporeal ripples spread out at an extremely fast speed, reaching the broken star in almost a blink of an eye. The star fiercely trembled to an extremely exaggerated degree. Many hill-sized pieces of land were shaken off, flying in all directions. Rumble. Sparks exploded along the cracks on the star's surface. It's really going to explode. Demonic Blade King's Jin Yuan curled up, pulling Lan Sanmai back. Peng. Endless light erupted. With the three as the center, the starry sky became as bright as day. Their eyes couldn't see anything, and their shadows were stretched out endlessly. In the end, even the shadows were devoured by the endless light. In the next moment, a majestic and powerful shockwave spread out, incomparably scorching. Yi Chen's protective Jin Yuan emitted a sizzling sound as his Jin Yuan flowed away like water. Demonic Blade King was far away, so he wasn't affected as much. However, he was still blown several thousand li away by the shockwave. Through his soul power, he could see a huge shockwave rapidly expanding like a halo. Meanwhile, the star in the center had long since turned into a ball of fire, expanding and releasing enormous heat. What a frightening explosive power! After waving the sword, Yi Chen retreated 100,000 li away. However, he was still somewhat unable to bear it. If he had been too close, he might have been seriously injured. If he had been too close to the star, he might have been instantly turned into ashes, leaving not even his bones behind. Even the undying body couldn't save him, because his flesh and blood would have been vaporized. As the shockwave grew smaller and smaller, Demonic Blade King approached. "You really destroyed it. I've underestimated the might of this sword." Demonic Blade King smiled. "How's the power of a star's explosion?" "It's powerful, isn't it? The star doesn't seem to be a threat to us, but once it explodes, all its energy will burst out in an instant. Even life and death kings will have to retreat 3 feet. It indeed can't be underestimated." Yi Chen faintly nodded. As for being able to destroy a 10,000 li star, Yi Chen wasn't too surprised. Heaven Pain Sword was different from other moves. The vibrational energy was concentrated and transmitted to the core of the star, where it would rapidly explode, causing destruction from the inside out. If it were destroyed from the outside, it would at most make the star even more dilapidated. Perhaps after many years, the star would fall, but not now. Too powerful. Demonic Blade King could somewhat endure Yi Chen's destruction of a star, but Lan Sanmei's experience was broadened. After all, when she entered the starry sky before, she didn't dare to stray too far from extreme void sky. She had never seen someone fight in the starry sky and destroy a star. This was her first time. Her visual senses were pushed to the limit. In her mind, the magnificence and destruction of the star's explosion kept replaying. Chapter 916. Returning to Eternal Sky Sect, Demonic Blade King prepared to take his leave. "Brother Yi, you've entered life and death realm, so I don't have anything good to give you. This is the general principles of demonic blade arts. You can refer to it, and it should help you avoid some detours." Taking out a jade strip from his storage ring, Demonic Blade King handed it over to Yi Chen. Yi Chen was a bit hesitant. Demonic blade arts were the foundation of Demonic Blade Sect, and the other party just handed it over to him. He was truly startled and unprepared. When the nest is overturned, no egg can remain unbroken. In Brother Yi's hands, demonic blade arts should display even greater effect. "In that case, I might as well help you. I only hope that Brother Yi won't spread the arts," Demonic Blade King said. Slowly letting out a breath, Yi Chen heavily nodded. "Many thanks, Senior Demonic Blade King. If there's time in the future, Yi Chen will definitely pay you a visit and drink until we're drunk." Yi Chen's words showed that he considered the other party as a friend. "Then I'll definitely welcome you." Demonic Blade King laughed heartily. Giving away demonic blade arts might be a big deal for Demonic Blade Sect, but for Demonic Blade King, it was nothing. To be able to make friends with Yi Chen, even 10 demonic blade arts were worth it. Moreover, Yi Chen's main path of development was not vibration power. With or without demonic blade arts, he could still reach the peak. Demonic blade arts would only make his progress a bit faster. A few days after Demonic Blade King and Lan Sanmei left, Yi Chen continued to study demonic blade arts. The general principles of the magic blade technique did not describe the vibration force in detail, but the structure was very clear. If one were to use an adjective to describe it, the magic blade technique was like a framework. If the framework was perfect, all one needed to do was fill it in. There was no way to take a detour. The magic blade technique could also be compared to the trunk of a large tree. The trunk was straight, and no matter how the branches developed, it would not affect the balance of the entire tree. It could grow healthily. In short, although demonic blade arts would not increase Yi Chen's comprehension of vibration power by much, it would allow Yi Chen to advance without worrying about any detours. This would naturally save him a lot of time. "I've already mastered the heaven-inflicted sword, but I haven't mastered it yet. With this demonic blade art, I should be able to master it soon." It was very, very difficult for a powerful martial art to reach perfection. Mastery meant that the martial art's power had been unleashed to its greatest extent. Perfection meant that the martial art had been completely comprehended, regardless of whether it was important or trivial. This was difficult to achieve in a short period of time. No matter how good a martial art was, it still needed to be tested countless times in order to discover its flaws and inadequacies. Yi Chen had just perfected the heaven-inflicted sword, and had not fought with anyone before. Naturally, it was difficult for him to discover the flaws and inadequacies of the heaven-inflicted sword. It's time to leave. On this day, Yi Chen had the thought of leaving the Blood Sky Land. Before I leave, I should create a consciousness avatar. Life and Death Kings had many abilities. Mental projection and will projection were the most frequently used, and also the most practical. The creation of the mental perception body could be said to be simple, but it could also be said to be difficult. Simple because all Life and Death Kings knew them. Difficult because the quality of consciousness avatars varied. The high ones had about 1/3 of the main body's battle power, while the low ones didn't even have 1/5 of the main body's battle power. Moreover, they were easy to collapse. For example, the consciousness avatar of the masked man had about 1/3 of the masked man's battle power. Its structure was also very stable, and it wouldn't collapse so easily. It meant that the masked man had made quite a bit of progress in creating consciousness avatars. If not for Yi Chen's soul light, it wouldn't have collapsed so easily. The first step of creating the consciousness image was to use himself as the model and use Jin Yuan to sketch out a human body, then fill it with internal organs, bones, blood, muscles, and the most important meridians. All of these were simulated with Jin Yuan. The Jin Yuan of a Life and Death King had already reached the level of imitation. Moreover, this was Yi Chen's own Jin Yuan. Therefore, the simulation was naturally lifelike, without a trace of falsehood. The next step was the most important one. Condensing the soul core. The only part of the human body that Life and Death Kings couldn't simulate was the soul ocean. The soul ocean was infinitely small, yet infinitely large. It was miraculous, and its structure was extremely stable. This was also the main reason why soul attacks couldn't destroy the opponent's soul. The soul core was naturally not as stable as the soul ocean, but it could at least hide the soul power inside without leaking out. In theory, a perfect consciousness avatar could exist for countless years without dissipating. Done. Looking at the consciousness avatar in front of him that looked exactly the same as him, and even had the same aura, Yi Chen revealed a trace of emotion and a sense of accomplishment. The consciousness avatar could be said to be an extension of oneself to a certain extent. Because it was the same soul, it could share information, and the martial skills that one had mastered could be used by the consciousness avatar as well. Of course, since the consciousness avatar was not the main body, its endurance was somewhat limited. Some martial skills that were too powerful would be somewhat difficult to use, such as the Heaven Wounding Sword with its powerful vibrating power. Even if the consciousness avatar could use it, it probably wouldn't be able to display its full might. Apart from this, the innate ability Soul Light couldn't be used either, since it involved the mysteries of the human body. Yi Chen could only simulate the human body, so how could he comprehend all the mysteries of the human body? The consciousness avatar existed in the meridians. Although it couldn't cultivate, it could still recover Jin Yuan through martial arts. Originally, this consciousness avatar could have 1/3 of Yi Chen's cultivation base. However, Yi Chen's cultivation base was not enough, and he was also lacking supreme-grade spirit stones. How could he pour in 1/3 of his cultivation base? He only stored 10 years' worth of cultivation base in the consciousness avatar. As far as he was concerned, the consciousness avatar was only used to protect Eternal Sky Sect, just in case. He reckoned that there would be few opportunities to fight, so he could recover his Jin Yuan in his free time. Taking out a mid-grade storage ring and the evil shattering sword, Yi Chen handed them over to the consciousness avatar. I can leave now. Without notifying Li Zhongfeng, Yi Chen directly tore open the space and escaped into the void. With 4-star battle strength, there was almost no place in this world that Yi Chen couldn't go. Moreover, Yi Chen was proficient in the space profound, and his escaping skills were absolutely top-notch. Let's go to chaotic demonic ocean first. Although Murong had left willingly with the demonic human emperor, it was still somewhat oppressive. Without strength, Yi Chen couldn't say anything. Now that he had strength, he naturally had the confidence to speak as an equal. Using his movement art, Yi Chen was like a fish, and the power of space was like water. In less than 2 hours, he arrived at the chaotic demonic ocean, which was surging with demonic chi. The chaotic demonic ocean was vast, but it was extremely easy to find the demonic human clan. One only needed to rush to the center of the ocean. Chaotic demonic ocean had a total of 10 great demonic human clans, and each of them occupied hundreds of islands. With the 10 great demonic human clans gathered together, they occupied thousands of islands, densely packed together. It was clear that only a small portion of the islands here were natural. Most of them had been moved here from other places. These thousands of islands faintly formed the shape of a flower. In the position of the flower's stamen were 5 black lotus islands. Palaces sat on these islands, and demon chi surged. In the middle of the Lotus Island Palace, the demonic human emperor's eyes opened wide, revealing a trace of astonishment. "He's here so quickly. Interesting. Seems like he's the one who caused such an uproar a while ago. I wonder what level his strength has reached. Since he dares to come here, it shouldn't be low, right?" The demonic human emperor was just a general term for demonic monarchs, not her title. Her title was Demon Flower Emperor. Demons had many branches, and the Demon Flower Emperor had half human bloodline and half flower demon bloodline. She could innately control the demonic flower and recover her own demonic power by absorbing its demonic power. Bone Demon, let's test his strength. Demon Flower Emperor sent a soul transmission to a nearby demonic human king. Yes. Who dares intrude on my chaotic demonic island? There were 10 great clans in the demonic human clan, and each clan had a demonic human king. However, most life and death kings knew that there were more than 10 demonic human kings in chaotic demonic ocean. There were definitely more than 15. Therefore, as soon as Yi Chen arrived above the islands, he was immediately discovered. Following a loud shout, 5 black figures flew out from different islands and blocked Yi Chen's path. One of these 5 was precisely the demonic human king who had chased after Yi Chen before. "It's you." The demonic human king was startled. "Flash Demon, you know him?" One of the demonic human kings asked. "I know him. He's Yi Chen." "Yi Chen? It's him. Could it be that the deluge of heavenly flowers a while ago was caused by him?" Hearing these words, the other 4 demonic human kings didn't dare to look down on Yi Chen. Once a genius entered life and death realm, their battle strength would be extraordinary. Moreover, Yi Chen was a peak genius ranked first in life and death substitute list. "Long time no see." Sizing up the Flash Demon King, a faint smile appeared on Yi Chen's face. "Yi Chen, why have you come to my Disorder Demon Island?" the Flash Demon King asked. "The demonic human emperor should know that I'm here. Why hasn't he come out to see me?" Yi Chen's gaze pierced through countless islands and landed on the Lotus Island at the center. It was a vast expanse of haze. Clearly, it was covered by a soul stone array. Soul power couldn't penetrate it and see what was inside. If the Patriarch wants to see you, he will naturally see you. If there's nothing else, leave quickly. The Flash Demon King didn't like Yi Chen at all. He had suffered a huge loss at the hands of the latter, and was beaten miserably by Yuan Emperor's projection. "Are you trying to probe my strength?" Yi Chen looked pensive. "Yi Chen, this is the Disorder Demon Island. It's not a place where you can come and go as you please. I advise you to leave quickly." The strongest among the 5, the demonic human king, shouted. "Since you want to probe my strength, I'll let you have a look." Yi Chen muttered to himself. Sword domain suddenly spread out, enveloping the 5. Peng 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 peng. The enormous sword pressure sent the 5 flying, unable to stop their bodies. Chapter 9:17. A. Sword domain has reached the 2nd layer. Inside the palace, Demon Flower Emperor revealed an astonished expression. As far as she knew, the improvement of sword domain was extremely difficult. The 2nd layer seemed low, but it was actually very high. Sky Sword Continent's Blue Cloud Sword Emperor's sword domain was merely at the peak of the 3rd layer. However, once a Life and Death Sword King obtained sword domain, they would be unstoppable when battling kings of the same level. Arrogant. The sword pressure brought by sword domain only sent the 5 flying back, not injuring them. The Flash Demon King flew into a rage out of humiliation and struck out with a palm strike. A black crack imprinted itself on Yi Chen's body. It was precisely the Demon Mark Annihilation martial skill he had used during his battle with Yuan Emperor's projection. It was tyrannical and overbearing. The other 4 also used their killing moves, wanting to give Yi Chen a show of strength. Although Yi Chen had 4-star battle strength, in terms of defense, he was no different from a 1-star king. Therefore, he naturally wouldn't be careless and allow the 5 to land their attacks on his body. Among these 5, 2 were 1-star kings, 2 were 2-star kings, and the strongest was a 3-star king. The 5 joined hands, creating a huge momentum. Unfortunately, their opponent was Yi Chen. Treading on the void, Yi Chen appeared dozens of li away as if he had teleported. The 5's attacks missed. Space profound. The pupils of the strongest among the 5 shrank. Patriarch had asked him to probe Yi Chen's strength. But, even before the latter made a move, he already felt that he might not be his opponent. 3-star overlord. Or 4-star. His strength was at the peak of 3-star. If Yi Chen were a 3-star overlord, he might be able to roughly estimate the latter's strength. But, if he were a 4-star overlord, it would be impossible. I am Bone Demon King. I would like to ask for pointers. Bone Demon King's muscles were small, and his bones were thick. He was tall and skinny, and his weapon was a bone spear. The spear tip flickered with a cold light, seeming even sharper than metal. Yi Chen glanced at the Flash Demon King and the other 3. Seeing that they had retreated quite a bit, he said to the Bone Demon King, "Make your move." He also knew that there was a gap between him and the demonic human emperor. Now that he was in the demonic human emperor's territory and the demonic human emperor wanted to test his strength, he naturally had to reveal some of his strength. Otherwise, what was the point of him coming here? Dark Bone Prison. The Bone Devil King's left hand seal changed, and he let out a low shout before he suddenly closed his palms. Ka-la-la. In the void, countless white bones condensed out of thin air and rapidly assembled, finally forming a huge cage of white bones, trapping Yi Chen inside. Above the cage of white bones, demonic energy roiled, forming black vortexes. As soon as these vortexes appeared, the space around them immediately shattered, and the power of space became chaotic. Sealing the space. Being inside the white bone cage, Yi Chen could sense that the space power around him had become extremely violent. Right now, if he wanted to escape into the surreal space, it would be 10 times harder than before. If he was not strong enough, he might even be crushed by the space power and the dark whirlpool the moment he tried to escape into the surreal space. Dark stab. After doing all this, the Bone Devil King's figure flashed, and the white bone spear in his hand pierced towards Yi Chen. A black light condensed on the tip of the spear, and the black light was extremely devouring. The surrounding light was involuntarily drawn in, causing the space where the Bone Devil King went to become dark, and the trajectory of his stab could not be seen. Ding! In the next moment, in the dark void without a trace of light, bright sparks suddenly burst out. With the light from the sparks, one could see that the cage of white bones had a huge gap cut out. On the opposite side, the bone spear in the Bone Devil King's hand had disappeared, and his right arm was dripping with blood, hanging limply at the side of his body. Fart! A mouthful of blood spurted out. The Bone Devil King only felt that his whole body was sore and weak, and he could not exert any strength at all. Yi Chen's sword that contained the power of vibration had not only knocked away his bone spear, but also crippled his right arm. It had also caused internal damage to his body. In a short period of time, his combat power would not even be 10%. 4-star combat power. It's definitely 4-star combat power. The Bone Devil King sucked in a breath of cold air. The darkness dispersed, and so did the white bone cage. Yi Chen did not look at the Bone Devil King. His gaze pierced through the void, landing on the Lotus Island at the center of the countless islands. The Bone Devil King was only a peak 3-star combat power, and naturally could not make him use his full strength. That sword just now was just an ordinary vibrational sword arts, but it was already enough. With his 4-star combat power and mastery of space profound, it was enough to explain the problem. Bone Devil, You all go down. At this moment, the Demon Flower Emperor transmitted his soul to the Five-Bone Devil King and the others. Yes. The Five-Bone Devil King and the others gave Yi Chen a complicated look, and their figures flickered, flying back to their own islands. Yi Chen, come over for a chat. The Demon Flower Emperor transmitted his soul to Yi Chen again. Clang. Putting away the Sky Scorpio sword, Yi Chen flew towards the Lotus Island. On the east side of the Lotus Island, there was a 300-jong pond. Black lotus flowers as big as millstones floated above the pond. They were sparkling like jade, and their blooming flower buds were emitting black light. Clearly, they were not ordinary. In the middle of the pond, there was an even bigger lotus, and on top of it was a pavilion. On the pavilion's third floor, the Demon Flower Emperor was brewing tea, and the fragrance of the tea permeated the air. Space rippled. A faint cyan light flickered, and Yi Chen appeared on the pavilion's third floor. Please sit. Dressed in luxurious black clothes, the Demon Flower Emperor extended his hand in invitation. Yi Chen frowned, but didn't sit down. Instead, he said, a dignified human demon emperor, why don't you dare to show your real body? With one glance, he could tell that the Demon Flower Emperor in front of him was only a consciousness projection. The Demon Flower Emperor's eyebrows twitched, surprise flashing in her eyes. Good eyesight, but you misunderstand. My real body is still in the starry sky, and I can't find the time. Moreover, I'm not your little lover. Seeing my real body and consciousness projection won't make any difference, right? As she spoke, she lifted the teapot and poured a cup of flower tea for Yi Chen. A flower fragrance that Yi Chen had never smelled before spread out, raising his spirit. Good tea. Yi Chen sat down, picked up the teacup and took a sip, feeling the soothing feeling that the tea brought to his mind. Of course it's good tea. This is the famous black mandala flower tea of the demons. It can nourish the soul and adjust the mental state. But since your soul is full, just treat it as a pleasure. Putting down the teacup, Yi Chen asked, is Murong here? She is currently comprehending the path of life and death. She won't be able to come out for a while. She can comprehend the path of life and death without leaving her house? Yi Chen was a bit baffled. The Demon Flower Emperor explained, every race has a different way of comprehending the path of life and death. It's fine as long as you can comprehend it. But for you to comprehend the path of life and death so quickly, it's more or less beyond my expectations. Yi Chen's growth speed was too shocking. Now, he already had 4-star battle prowess. The Demon Flower Emperor truly regarded him as an equal existence. What needed to be explained, she would more or less explain. After all, with Yi Chen's rate of improvement, perhaps in a few years, the entire Elysium would revolve around him, and he would become one of the most respected people. The status of the demonic human race was awkward, and there would be many dangers in the future. At this time, it was even more important to build a good relationship with Yi Chen. Murong Qingcheng was currently comprehending the path of life and death, so Yi Chen didn't want to dwell too much on this topic. Changing the topic, he said, Senior should know quite a bit about the demons, right? The Demon Flower Emperor slowly nodded, quite a bit. I wonder if you can tell me a bit about the demons. Yi Chen didn't know much about the demons. From his point of view, the Demon Flower Emperor, as the descendant of the demons and humans, should know a bit. The Demon Flower Emperor didn't answer directly and said, do you know how the demons came to Elysium? I don't. Yi Chen shook his head. You should know about the Sky Sword continent Sky Sword, right? Putting down the teacup in his hand, the Demon Flower Emperor said slowly, in the ancient era, Elysium's kings were as numerous as the clouds, and it was extremely powerful. One day, a huge sword descended from the sky and tore apart the barrier of Elysium, ultimately landing on True Spirit Continent. Because the Sky Sword's might was too great, the entire continent was divided into 3 parts, becoming the present True Spirit Continent, Blood Sky Continent, and Sky Sword Continent. Sky Sword Continent was the core of the Sky Sword's might. However, the true danger wasn't the Sky Sword, but the otherworldly experts that followed it. There were demons, as well as other otherworldly races. The Sky Sword's divine might was unparalleled. After the world barrier was torn apart, it unexpectedly lost its ability to block the outside world for a short period of time. Those otherworldly experts who entered Elysium would at most suffer the suppression of Elysium's rules, but they wouldn't be harmed in the slightest. After all, Elysium is a world with abundant resources and countless treasures. Otherworldly experts had the intention to invade this place, so a great war broke out between them and the otherworldly experts of Elysium in ancient times. This war engulfed the entire Elysium, and battles broke out in every corner. In the beginning, there weren't many otherworldly experts and they couldn't do much. However, as more and more otherworldly experts entered, the level of the war also increased until it was a battle of life and death. In this long war, the humans and demons of Elysium were naturally very powerful. Among the otherworldly races, the strongest were the demons. The demons led the otherworldly races and forced the humans and demons into a desperate situation, almost taking control of Elysium. However, at that time, the world barrier that was torn apart by the Sky Sword slowly repaired itself. If the demons and otherworldly races wanted to enter, they would have to pay a huge price in terms of strength. With the advantage in numbers and the oppression of the enemy in Elysium, the humans and demons gradually gained the upper hand. In the end, they annihilated the otherworldly army that invaded Elysium and sealed some otherworldly experts that couldn't be killed. From then on, Elysium was saved. Unfortunately, although Elysium was saved, the powerful kings at that time were almost all dead. The demons and other otherworldly races took this opportunity to seal the entrances and exits of Elysium, preventing any Elysium experts from leaving. Entrances and exits. Yi Chen seemed to have thought of something. The Demon Flower Emperor explained, it used to be the entrances and exits. After the martial artists of Elysium reach life and death realm, they can enter and exit at will. But now, the entrances and exits have become dead ends. Since ancient times, countless kings have died on that dead end, killed by otherworldly experts. Their goal is to prevent Elysium from ever developing. This is because in Elysium, the rules limit the lifespan of humans to 1,000 years. But walking out of Elysium, one can break free from the restrictions of Elysium's rules, increasing one's lifespan by 100 times. Humans can live for 100,000 years. The Demon Flower Emperor revealed a piece of information that shocked Yi Chen. Chapter 9:18. 100,000 years. No wonder Senior Dragon King wants to go to the path of death. If he doesn't do it, he can only wait for death. If he does it, there is at least a glimmer of hope. Once he succeeds, his lifespan will reach 100,000 years and he won't have to worry about the end of his life. Moreover, with enough time, his battle prowess will increase steadily. Reaching 6 or 7 star is just a matter of time. While Yi Chen was shocked, he suddenly understood. Since the ancient times, no one has been able to go through it. Yi Chen asked. Demon Flower Emperor said, of course there are. Some relied on their strength and some relied on heaven-defying luck. However, no matter if it's strength or luck, no one has ever returned. If Elysium wants to be truly powerful, there must be a group of rulers who are comparable to the ancients or a ruler who surpasses the ancients. Otherwise, Elysium will sooner or later fall into the hands of otherworldly experts. I'm afraid that even if there is a group of rulers who are comparable to the ancients or a ruler who surpasses the ancients, they will only be able to protect themselves. Yi Chen wouldn't be so optimistic. In the ancient times, Elysium was already so miserable, let alone the current era. Unless that ruler surpasses the ancients is so powerful that it's heaven-defying. It's already not bad to be able to protect myself. After all, there is still hope. Demon Flower Emperor smiled bitterly. That's true. Yi Chen nodded slightly. Her gaze fell on Yi Chen. Demon Flower Emperor said, I can see that your battle prowess is at least above 4 star. In addition to your space profound, there aren't many in the entire Elysium who can deal with you. Demon Flower Emperor's eyesight was very powerful. When Yi Chen dealt with Bone Devil King, he obviously didn't use his full strength. As for how much strength he used, she didn't know. However, what really caught her attention was that Yi Chen's attainment in Space Profound was very high. Space Profound was one of the strongest profound. There were very few people who were proficient in it. Even if Yi Chen's Space Profound wasn't in the top 3, it was at least in the top 5. You flatter me. Yi Chen didn't feel proud at all. With the Space Upanishad, there weren't many people who could deal with him, but it wasn't certain that there were only a few of them. The world he lived in wasn't a materialistic world. In this world, there were all kinds of strange techniques. It was just that he hadn't met them yet, or maybe he didn't have the chance to meet them. I want to make a deal with you, but I don't know if you dare. Shaking his head, the Demon Flower Emperor suddenly said. What deal? Yi Chen had some guesses, but he wasn't sure. The full support of the demonic human clan and 2 million true essence crystals. Not to mention the great significance of the support of the demi-demon clan, the 2 million Jin Yuan crystals alone were priceless, enough to tempt any life and death realm warrior. 2 million Jin Yuan crystals? Are you from the Blackwater Alliance? Yi Chen made a connection. Jin Yuan crystals were something that no life and death realm warrior would be willing to make in large amounts to increase their cultivation base. If they really did so, they would be idiots. Condensing Jin Yuan crystals for their own cultivation would be pointless. As for giving them to the younger generation, they wouldn't need so much. Moreover, 2 million Jin Yuan crystals would take a long time to condense. Therefore, there was only one way to obtain a large amount of Jin Yuan crystals, from the outside. That's right. I'm also one of the people who knows about the Devouring Island. It's impossible for the Blackwater Alliance to monopolize the Devouring Island. Without a backer, the 2 Blackwater Alliances will be annihilated. Apart from me, there's another titled monarch who's working with them. The Devil Flower Emperor, as an emperor human demonic king, had a large share of the true essence crystals. Otherwise, it would be impossible for her to casually take out 2 million true essence crystals for a transaction. It must be known that the human demonic race was also a large family. Aside from her, who was a perfect human demonic beauty, the true essence crystals were useful to the other human demonic kings. What condition? Yi Chen asked. It's very simple. When you have the strength in the future, you can take care of the demi-demon clan. The Demon Flower Emperor replied. This condition is too vague. If the demi-demon clan betrays Elysium, do you think I will help them fight against the entire Elysium? Don't worry. If the demi-demon clan really betrays Elysium, the condition will be invalid. Yi Chen thought for a while and suddenly understood. The Demon Flower Emperor's deal with him was not to guard against Elysium, but against the demons. The demons had always been domineering. They would definitely recruit the demi-demon clan. If the demi-demon clan didn't comply, it would naturally arouse the dissatisfaction of the demons. Moreover, the humans and beasts of Elysium had some misunderstanding with the demi-demon clan. At that time, whether they would help the demi-demon clan or not was uncertain. At the very least, they would not be duty-bound. In this way, the demi-demon clan would be stuck in the middle. It could be said that it was full of danger. A slight carelessness could lead to the extinction of the entire clan. The Demon Flower Emperor was alone, so her role was too small. Of course, as for what the Demon Flower Emperor was thinking, outsiders could only guess. No one could read anyone's mind. Obviously, the other had taken a fancy to Yi Chen's potential. Right now, Yi Chen already had 4-star battle power. In the near future, he would definitely reach 5 stars, or even 6 stars. At that time, a single word from him would carry a lot of weight. As long as the demi-demon clan didn't betray them, perhaps because of one word from him, they would be safe. All right. Yi Chen agreed. This condition of the Demon Flower Emperor was not excessive. Not to mention, the other party was Murong's teacher, and Murong herself was a member of the demi-demon clan. If the day really came and the demi-demon clan was in trouble, Yi Chen would not just stand by and watch. 2 million Jin Yuan crystals were very useful to him. It could increase his cultivation by another 50 years, reaching more than 230 years. I believe that you will keep your promise. A smile appeared on the Demon Flower Emperor's face. In her opinion, Yi Chen reaching 5-star battle power was 100% certain. In the future, he would definitely be a powerful support for the demi-demon clan. If he could reach 6-star battle power, the possibility of the demi-demon clan surviving this crisis would be very high. Adding on the growth of Murong Qingcheng, the situation was very optimistic. Senior, don't worry. Yi Chen has always taken promises very seriously. Yi Chen said solemnly. Here are 2 million Zhen Yuan crystals. Nodding, the Demon Flower Emperor took out a storage ring and handed it over to Yi Chen. Taking the storage ring, Yi Chen didn't even look at it and directly put it away. Alright, I've only told you about the origin of the demons, but I haven't told you the details yet. After the deal was done, the Demon Flower Emperor's mood lightened up. She said, the world barrier is the protective layer of a world. It contains the rules of this world. Apart from the entrance, no other place can enter or leave. Although the entrance can be entered or left at will, this is only for the people of this world. If the experts of other worlds enter through the entrance, they will suffer the backlash of the rules, which will greatly damage their bodies and souls. Because of the many factors of battle power, if one forcefully enters a world, the amount of damage would vary, but there is a general standard. 5-star king forcefully enters, which will decrease by 1 star. 6-star king forcefully enters, which will decrease by 1.5 stars. 7-star king forcefully enters, which will decrease by 2 stars. The higher one's strength, the higher the price one has to pay to enter a world. In recent years, there have been many experts from other worlds who have entered. Some have high strength, but none of them could truly threaten Elysium. They could only hide in the dark. Back then, the 9 underworld demon king that wreaked havoc in South Rudra region was actually a demon king of demons. Its strength was 5-star. Later, it was chased by Dragon King and Xianhu, but it did not die in the end. At that time, Dragon King's battle power was 5-star, while Xuanhu's was high-level 4-star. 9 Underworld Demon King is a demon king of demons. It was Yi Chen's first time hearing about it. As for Dragon King and Xianhu being able to chase 9 Underworld Demon King to such an extent, it was easy to understand. Dragon King himself had 5-star battle power, which was more or less the same as 9 Underworld Demon King. Although Xuanhu's battle power was high-level 4-star, it did not mean that a high-level 4-star battle power could not threaten a 5-star king. For example, Yi Chen had 4-star battle power, but if he stood still, he would still be killed by someone weaker than him. If the two of them joined hands, it would be normal for them to heavily injure 9 Underworld Demon King. The true threat of Elysium is those powerful beings from other worlds that have been sealed. Sealing has its pros and cons. On the pro side, it can seal those powerful beings that cannot be killed and gradually whittle away their power and vitality. On the pro side, it can slow down the flow of time. Those powerful beings from other worlds that were sealed in ancient times and medieval times might not be dead yet. Once they are unsealed, although they will be very weak, their bodies have already become familiar with the rules of Elysium after tens of thousands of years, or even hundreds of thousands of years. Therefore, they will not be suppressed too much. As long as they have treasures that can recover their power, they will be able to quickly reach their peak state. At that time, it will truly be the doomsday of Elysium. Sealing extended their lifespan, but it also whittled away their power. Those who survived were all peerless powerful beings. Yi Chen understood what Demon Flower Emperor meant. Those who were not powerful had all been sealed and killed. The power and vitality of a being was limited, so those who were not powerful would naturally be lacking something. Those who were truly powerful had all survived. Can you not find those sealed places? Yi Chen asked. Demon Flower Emperor shook his head. Some of the sealed places can be found, but some have disappeared from their original positions for some unknown reason. Nobody can find them. Moreover, too much time has passed, and some of the sealed places have changed due to some special reasons. So far, there are only a few sealed places in Elysium that are being monitored. That should be the case. Time was the most powerful weapon. Too many things had happened in the past hundreds of thousands of years, so many that they were innumerable. Suddenly, Yi Chen recalled that he had once been possessed by a demonic will in the underground cave of Sky Marshal region. That demonic will was extremely frightening. At that time, if not for the protection of Dragon King's will, his destruction sword intent would not have improved, and he would have been possessed. Could it be that there was also a powerful being from another world sealed there? Very likely. Yi Chen's brows creased. Chapter 919. The otherworldly experts that entered Elysium can find the sealed experts of their own race through a special method. Since their strength has been severely damaged, and the seals were set up by the powerful titled monarchs of ancient times, it is extremely difficult to unseal them. However, one day, they will successfully unseal them, and once they unseal one, they will unseal the second one. This situation is very disadvantageous to us. Sighing, the Demon Flower Emperor said with a solemn expression, "If Elysium wants to break this situation, we can only make two plans. The first is to find the hiding place of the otherworldly experts and join hands to kill them, ruining their plan to unseal them. The second is to find a lucky chance and work hard to increase our strength. I don't know if it is because Elysium has sensed the impending crisis, but this generation's geniuses are much more numerous than usual. It seems that starting from Xianhu, a new era has begun. If this is true, it won't take many years for Elysium to have a war of life and death, continuing the unfinished war of the ancient times." The Demon Flower Emperor's voice became more and more solemn, and his tone became gloomier. "Find the hiding place of the otherworldly experts." Yi Chen's eyebrows twitched. With the eye of the soul, his probing ability could be said to be unparalleled in this world. Everything within 1,000,000,000 miles was within his observation range. Although the base of the otherworldly experts would definitely have many concealing formations and restrictions, as long as he spent some time, he would be able to find some clues. Unfortunately, he didn't have the time now. The eye of the soul could allow him to see anything within 1,000,000,000 miles, but to find some hidden things, it wasn't that easy. He had to search inch by inch, and then carefully distinguish them. The amount of information was too large, and it was impossible to finish processing it in 1 or 2 days. As for how many days it would take, it would depend on his luck. If his luck wasn't good, he might not find anything in a year or so. He couldn't waste time on this at such a crucial time, as the gains wouldn't make up for the losses. At the very least, he had to increase his combat power to the point where it couldn't be increased in a short period of time before he could divert his attention to other things. Exhaling softly, Yi Chen said calmly, "We'll deal with whatever comes our way. It won't be easy for the powerful beings from the other worlds to invade Elysium. Of course, it won't be easy for us to protect Elysium as well. Since it won't be easy for everyone, then it's equivalent to standing on the same starting point. Why should we be afraid of them? Who will laugh in the end will depend on our own abilities." Hearing this, the Demon Flower Emperor looked at Yi Chen in astonishment. "As expected of a swordsman. Your imposing manner is indomitable. You are able to explain complicated matters in simple terms. Indeed, we are standing at the same starting point. If we lose, it means that we are not qualified to possess Elysium. We can't blame anyone. Sometimes, when one's state of mind was different, one's view of things would also be different. In a situation where things could not be salvaged, having a good state of mind was always better than having a bad state of mind." Rumble. Right at this moment, the huge Lotus Island suddenly trembled slightly. The demon chi surged even more violently. Ordinary people might not be able to sense this kind of tremble, or they might even ignore it. However, for Yi Chen and the Demon Flower Emperor, this kind of tremble was undoubtedly like a bolt from the blue. How could they not sense it? Hey! Frowning, Yi Chen released his soul power. Using his soul power, he could sense that within a radius of 100,000 miles, the demon chi was rising stealthily. The waves of the sea were more violent than usual, hitting the reefs around the islands. And in the center of these countless islands, which were the 5 Lotus Islands, the demon chi formed a beam of light that shot up into the sky. "Senior, what's going on?" Yi Chen asked. The Demon Flower Emperor didn't seem to be surprised by this situation. He explained, "The reason why I moved the 10 demonic human clans here is because there's a powerful demon chi at the bottom of this ocean. Every few years, a demon chi tide will occur. During the demon chi tide, the density of the demon chi will increase by 100-fold. To the members of our demonic human clan, This is the best time to cultivate. Take a look at these demon lotuses. The demon flower emperor pointed at the black lotuses on the pond. Yi Chen looked over and noticed that the black lotuses on the pond were growing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Originally, they were the size of a millstone, but in a short period of time, they had doubled in size. Some of the flower buds that had yet to blossom were also quietly blossoming, emitting a black light that tempted the soul. So that's the case. When Yi Chen and Murong Qingcheng first came to the Chaos Demonic Ocean, they felt that this place was unusual. Even the demon beasts in the water seemed to have undergone a mutation. So it turned out that it was caused by the powerful demon qi at the bottom of the ocean. This place is known as the sacred land of the demonic humans. It's not a bad place. Yi Chen nodded. It was indeed better for Murong to train here than anywhere else. The demon qi tide will last for about a month. Apart from the initial and final stages, the middle stages are very calm. The demon flower emperor sighed and continued, unfortunately, when a world war breaks out, this place will become the first choice of the demons. Only by occupying this place will they be able to fight a protracted war with us. Senior, don't you find it strange that there's a place with powerful demon qi in Elysium? I believe that there's something mysterious at the bottom of this ocean. I believe that Senior has your suspicions. The demon qi in Elysium was sparse. The biggest problem for the demons was that they couldn't replenish their demon qi. They could only rely on the treasures they carried with them. However, treasures would eventually be used up. It was fine for a short period of time, but once the war dragged on, it would be dangerous. The other party was right. In the future, the Chaos Demonic Ocean would most likely become the base of the demons. I went down to investigate, but I couldn't get close to the demon qi core. The demon qi there has a powerful assimilation effect. If I get close, I'll become a part of the demon qi core. I won't be able to resist it. The demon flower emperor smiled bitterly. Oh, that's amazing. Saying so, Yi Chen released his soul force and probed the depths of the ocean. 100,000 meters. 300,000 meters. 1 million meters. 5 million meters. 10 million meters. At 10 million meters, or 20,000 miles, the powerful demon qi made it so that even soul force couldn't penetrate it. He could only sense darkness and boundless demon qi everywhere. Amazing. Taking a deep breath, the space between Yi Chen's brows opened, and a silver vertical eye appeared. In the past, Yi Chen wouldn't expose his special abilities. But now, he already had 4-star battle prowess and was proficient in space profound. There was no need to hide it. Swish. The silver light beam was like a condensed light, penetrating the Lotus Island and looking down. This time, Yi Chen could see the demon qi core below 20,000 miles. The powerful demon qi only made his vision a little blurry, but it couldn't obstruct it. At a depth of 10,000 miles, Yi Chen finally saw the Chaos Demonic Ocean's demon qi core. Is this it? Drawing with his true yuan, Yi Chen drew out what he saw in reality. The demon flower emperor was startled by Yi Chen's soul eye. This was the first time she saw someone with a soul eye. Moreover, it seemed to be even more powerful than the legends said. Imperceptibly, Yi Chen's position in her eyes became even higher. With the soul eye, he could see everything in the world without even stepping out of his house. What Yi Chen had drawn out was a black prismatic crystal the size of an island. The two ends of the crystal were wrapped in bronze metal. The surface of the metal had countless patterns that flickered. Every time it flickered, a huge amount of demon qi would be released. During the process, the demon qi would be diluted into demon qi. Crack. The black crystal formed by Jin Yuan shattered. Yi Chen's face turned pale. This thing was too mysterious. It had consumed a lot of his mental energy, and he couldn't maintain it for long. Senior, did you see anything? Yi Chen asked after taking a sip of the black mammoth flower tea. He felt much better. The demon flower emperor hesitated. I don't know what this black crystal is, but the patterns on the bronze metal seem to be a transformation formation. It transforms the heaven and earth yuan qi into demon qi. After brewing, it condenses into extremely pure demon qi and releases it, forming a cycle. Heaven and earth yuan qi transforms into demon qi. This should be a treasure left behind from the ancient era. It is also the reason why the demons were able to invade Elysium. Treasures were also divided into different types. Some could increase one's strength, some could increase one's defense, and some could increase one's vitality. This black crystal was undoubtedly a strategic treasure. Most likely so. The demon flower emperor felt a headache. She still didn't know that there was a terrifying treasure under the chaos demonic sea that could affect the war. This way, the demonic human race would be the first to face the demons. Time passed quickly, and the sun gradually set. Stay on the Lotus Island for a few more days. You can refine the true essence crystal into true essence. From the moment the transaction was made, the chaotic demon ocean's demonic human clan was walking on the same path as Yi Chen to a certain extent. One's glory, one's loss, one's loss. Yi Chen's strength was of enormous significance to the demonic flower emperor. Okay. Yi Chen didn't decline. He indeed needed time to refine the true essence crystal. Nothing was more reliable than his own cultivation. The night was as cold as water. Yi Chen was refining the true essence crystal on one of the Lotus Islands. This true essence crystal came from the same place as Yi Chen's true essence crystal. It didn't reach the low grade and could only be classified as a quasi-low grade true essence crystal. 2 days passed. 2 million true essence crystals were completely refined. On the other hand, Yi Chen's cultivation increased by another 50 years, reaching the level of 230 years. Although cultivation had the least effect on one's strength, unless the gap between the two was too big, the stronger one might not necessarily have the upper hand. However, there was an advantage to having a profound cultivation, and that was being able to fight. It should be known that operating the undying body required Jin Yuan, and using powerful moves required Jin Yuan as well. Without Jin Yuan, what could one use to fight against others? Others could exhaust you to death. Cultivation was like an engine. Without it, no matter how good the other parts were, it would be useless. Time to return to True Spirit Continent. On this day, Yi Chen bid farewell to the Demon Flower Emperor and entered the void, rushing toward True Spirit Continent. Chapter 920. Back then, Yi Chen didn't know how long it had taken him to travel from True Spirit Continent to Blood Sky Continent. But this time, the time spent was 1,000 times shorter. It was as if there wasn't an endless ocean between them, but a river, a lake, and a bridge that would allow them to reach the other side. I'm finally back. On the coastline of True Spirit Continent, Yi Chen's figure appeared with a complicated expression. When he left, he only had the cultivation base of Sea of Soul Realm. But after returning, he was already a life and death king, and not an ordinary one at that. His cultivation base had reached 230 years, and his battle strength had skyrocketed to 4 stars. It could be said that the current him could kill 100 of his previous selves with a single sword strike. Times had changed. Although Senior Dragon King's life and death are unknown, his Dragon God Celestial Palace can't be encroached upon by others. Humph. Opening his silver vertical eye, Yi Chen's gaze pierced through half of the continent and landed on the Dragon God Celestial Palace in the eastern shallow ocean. That place had already changed masters, being occupied by Whirlwind Gate, Water Wave Sect, Black King Gate, and Sky Eagle Cult, divided into 4 parts. Moreover, Water Wave Sect still had a king overseeing it. Let me see what kind of trump cards you have. Puff. His figure turned illusory as Yi Chen dove into the void. After the time it took to brew a cup of tea, the space above the Dragon God Celestial Palace distorted, and a figure walked out. His blue robes fluttered in the wind, and his expression was cold and solemn. Sucking in a deep breath, Yi Chen operated his Jin Yuan and roared, "All those who aren't from Dragon God Celestial Palace, get the hell off this island." His voice wasn't loud at first, but as it spread out, it grew louder and louder. It was like a mountain torrent, a thunderbolt, and a torrential downpour. Everyone on the island heard this voice, especially the last "get the hell off." It was filled with killing intent, and its speed was extremely fast, piercing through one's soul like a swift sword. Who's so daring? Everyone on the island was stupefied. Whirlwind Gate. Black King Gate. Water Wave Sect. There was also the Heavenly Eagle cult. It was unknown whether Dragon King was dead or alive. This island had long since become the common territory of the Eastern Shallow Ocean's 4 major powers. This news had already spread throughout True Spirit Continent and the surrounding seas. However, not a single person came to cause trouble. Even the world-famous Xianhu couldn't do anything to the 4 major powers. It was said that she was stopped by a powerful titled monarch. This made the other powers coveting Dragon God Celestial Palace even more afraid. They could only watch as the 4 major powers devoured everything. Now, someone actually dared to tell them to get the fuck out. Didn't they eat the guts of a leopard? He's simply courting death. Even Xianhu couldn't protect Dragon God Celestial Palace, and he didn't even inquire about it. Perhaps it's a guy who received Dragon King's favor back then. He had been in seclusion for several decades and didn't know about the outside world. Seeing Dragon God Celestial Palace changing owners, he couldn't accept it. Trouble comes from the mouth. Very well, let the people of the world know the consequences of offending us 4 great powers. On the island, the people from the 4 major forces discussed with disdain. Audacious. Which scoundrel is causing trouble here? From the western side of the small continent-like island, a figure flew over. He had a head full of grey hair and wore a dark green robe. He seemed to be in his 50s or 60s. The old man stood a few li away from Yi Chen. You are. The grey-haired old man was a bit hesitant. He seemed to feel that Yi Chen's face was familiar. You're Yi Chen. Suddenly, the grey-haired old man shouted. He had seen Yi Chen's portrait. Back when the 4 major forces were probing Dragon God Celestial Palace, Yi Chen had helped Dragon God Celestial Palace heavily injure the 4 major forces, causing them to lose a lot of their core forces. As a result, Yi Chen had become a thorn in their flesh. Not bad, I'm back. Yi Chen looked down at the other party. Yi Chen? Which Yi Chen? Could it be True Spirit Continent's Sword Master Yi Chen? It's really him. No wonder I felt a bit familiar. Due to the distance, the crowd couldn't see clearly. Only after hearing the grey-haired old man's words did they recognize him. Hiss. When did he enter life and death realm? Could it be that the deluge of heavenly flowers a while ago was caused by him? Although I don't want to admit it, this Yi Chen is definitely the most frightening genius since Yuan Emperor. He seems to be in his early 30s. Yi Chen's fame was too great, so great that no one in the younger generation could compare to him. The 4 major forces also had geniuses, but compared to Yi Chen, they were like fireflies compared to the bright moon. There was simply no comparison. Even Dugu Ju and Dantai Mingyu, who were currently at their peak, were a bit lacking compared to Yi Chen. And now, Yi Chen had unexpectedly become a life and death king. If this news were to spread, it would definitely cause a huge commotion. Too bad, he's still too arrogant. He's just entered life and death realm, and is already thinking of reviving Dragon God Celestial Palace. Who does he think he is? If I were him, I would have chosen to conceal my strength and bide my time. The discussions below didn't affect the 2 above. The grey-haired old man gloomily said, Yi Chen, what are you doing here? Let me give you a word of advice. Don't cause trouble here. Otherwise, you won't be able to leave even if you want to. The grey-haired old man didn't dare to be careless. It was said that geniuses who entered life and death realm possessed extremely powerful battle strength. For example, Xianhu had become a peak king not long after entering life and death realm. Therefore, he didn't have the confidence to defeat Yi Chen in a one-on-one battle. He planned to first persuade Yi Chen to retreat, then join hands with the other 3 to take him down. Leave? Why should I leave? You don't have the qualifications to say such words. If Yi Chen's guess wasn't wrong, the other party was the sect leader of Water Wave Sect, the Water Wave King. Apart from Dragon God Celestial Palace, the other 4 kings of Eastern Shallow Ocean were all high-step kings. Water Wave Sect had Water Wave King, while Whirlwind Gate, Black King Gate, and Sky Eagle Cult had Whirlwind King, Black King King, and Sky Eagle King respectively. It was precisely because these four were all high-step kings that they could contend against Dragon God Celestial Palace. Of course, with Dragon King's strength, he could actually surpass these four kings. Therefore, behind these four powers, there must be a powerful backer. Impudent. Since you don't want to leave, then don't. This was the first time Water Wave King was looked down upon by a youngster. Although Yi Chen's talent was exceptional, he didn't believe that Yi Chen could raise his battle strength to that extent in such a short time. On the other hand, he had 3-star battle strength and 800 years of cultivation base. He could grind the opponent to death. Flood Palm. With a furious roar, Water Wave King punched at Yi Chen. This palm contained the profound of water and earth. As it flew out, a flood overflowed the sky, ultimately condensing into a huge muddy palm. The space was immediately torn apart, shattering into pieces. Ang! Yi Chen unsheathed the Sky Scorpio sword, which immediately burst out with a resplendent golden light. He used the first style of vibrational sword arts, Sky Cutting Sword. With Water Wave King's battle strength, he wasn't worthy of Yi Chen using the second style of vibrational sword arts, Sky Cutting Sword. The muddy palm was cut apart, and the sword light containing berserk vibrational power shot toward Water Wave King. What sword art is this? Water Wave King was greatly shocked. His body turned into a stream of water and promptly dodged. Unfortunately, no matter how fast he was, he couldn't outrun the sword light. Puff! A small half of Water Wave King's body turned into a bloody mist, and even his internal organs were exposed. In the next moment, a mournful wail soared into the sky. This sword strike from Yi Chen made Water Wave King feel the threat of death. It should be known that he was neither Yi Chen nor Xian Hu. His undying body was only at the peak of Broken Limb Rebirth Realm. It would be extremely difficult for him to reach Flesh Derivation Realm in his lifetime. This was because Flesh Derivation Realm was not something ordinary people could reach. Ordinary life and death kings would either be stuck at the peak of Broken Limb Rebirth Realm for their entire lives, or have a fortuitous encounter and directly reach the early Blood Drop Rebirth Realm. Flesh Derivation Realm could allow life and death kings to comprehend the mysteries of undying body. When they reached Blood Drop Rebirth Realm in the future, they would be able to continue advancing all the way to the peak of Blood Drop Rebirth, or even perfection. Through a fortuitous encounter, they would be able to jump from Broken Limb Rebirth to Blood Drop Rebirth Realm. For example, a person with slightly inferior talent would find it difficult to reach Life and Death Chamber. If they had a fortuitous encounter, they could directly become a Life and Death King, but their battle strength would not be high. On the other hand, a person with high talent would make the transition in Life and Death Chamber. After becoming a Life and Death King, their battle strength would be extremely formidable, and they could instantly become a mid-step king, or even a high-step king. Although Sky Cutting Sword was not Yi Chen's true killing move, it was still not something a high-step king could endure. Even if a part of its power was cancelled out by the Flood Palm, it still had enough power to kill Water Wave King. If not for the latter's movement technique being pretty good and dodging a bit, this sword would have taken his life. Junior, you're so vicious. Circulating the undying body, Water Wave King barely managed to restore his body. However, the peak level of limb regrowth wasn't very good for his torso. Thus, his injuries were extremely severe, and he only had 30 to 40% of his battle strength left. As he spoke, Water Wave King swallowed several glowing pellets. This time, I won't kill you. Take your people and scram. Yi Chen didn't continue attacking. Water Wave King didn't pose much of a threat to him. Killing him would instead make the situation unmanageable. He was sure that the four factions had an extremely powerful backer. Otherwise, Xianhu wouldn't have failed to protect the Dragon God Celestial Palace, allowing it to fall into the hands of the four factions. You'll regret offending us, four factions. You'll definitely regret it. Water Wave King's complexion turned ashen. If you don't leave, I won't mind killing you. Yi Chen's eyes squinted, and his killing intent spread out bit by bit. Down below, the people of the four factions had long since been stupefied. One sword. Water Wave King couldn't even receive a single strike from Yi Chen. What kind of situation was this? Impossible. Water Wave King is a high-step king. How could Yi Chen defeat him with one sword and almost kill him? Don't tell me he's a peak king. High-step kings had 3-star battle strength, but even a 3-star tyrant couldn't be like Yi Chen, almost killing Water Wave King with one sword strike. Water Wave King was in a deadlock, as if waiting for something. Bang! 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 Right at this moment, the sky suddenly shattered, and 3 powerful figures walked out. Yi Chen, you're courting death. Yi Chen, don't leave this time. The newcomers were precisely the other 3 kings, Whirlwind King, Black King, and Sky Eagle King. Chapter 921. You're all here, just in time. Yi Chen sneered as he glanced at Water Wave King, then shifted his gaze to Whirlwind King and the other 2. This kid is troublesome. Let's take him down together. Water Wave King arrived beside the 3 and said with a grave expression. Water Wave King, you're injured. Seeing Water Wave King's weak aura and pale face, Sky Eagle King asked. Don't look down on him. Although he entered life and death realm not long ago, he already has the strength of a peak king. I can only cooperate with you and use 2 killer moves. After that, I won't have any battle strength left. Although Water Wave King was heavily injured, he could still use his full strength twice. What? Peak King's strength? Black King with shiny skin and ugly face was incomparably shocked. Right, I couldn't even receive a single sword strike from him. Although Water Wave King loved his face, he wouldn't deceive himself. He entered life and death realm not long ago. Even if he has the strength of a peak king, he should only be a low 4-star king. The 4 of us can contend against a mid 4-star king. There's no need to make a fuss. The one speaking was the strongest among the 4, Whirlwind King. Although they were all high-step kings with 3-star battle strength, there was still some disparity in strength. Among them, Water Wave King and Sky Eagle King were high 3-star battle strength, Black King was peak 3-star battle strength, and Whirlwind King was a true 3-star overlord, an unparalleled existence among high-step kings. Unfortunately, what Whirlwind King didn't know was that Yi Chen's battle strength was far from low 4-star. Moreover, even if Yi Chen's battle strength was low 4-star, the 4 still wouldn't be able to defeat him. First, Yi Chen had Sword Domain, which allowed Yi Chen to ignore the number of enemies to a certain extent. When dealing with Water Wave King, Yi Chen didn't even use Sword Domain. Second, Yi Chen was proficient in Space Profound. Be it dodging or speed, he far surpassed them. Not to mention Yi Chen's 4-star battle strength. In fact, even if Yi Chen was a 3-star overlord, he would be able to defeat Water Wave King, Sky Eagle King, and Black King one by one, and ultimately fight Whirlwind King to a draw. Of course, Whirlwind King's cultivation base was much deeper than his. You'll know once you try, Yi Chen said calmly. Whirlwind King glanced at Water Wave King, Sky Eagle King, and Black King. He said slowly and firmly, attack together. Hoo-hoo. A violent whirlwind was formed in an instant. It left the Whirlwind King's palm and blasted towards Yi Chen. This whirlwind contained wind blades that were condensed to the extreme. On the wind blades, there was a layer of golden light. It was the metal ultimacy. The wind ultimacy and the metal ultimacy fused together, causing the Whirlwind King's attack to be incomparably sharp and indestructible. Flood Palm Print. Sky-tearing Eagle Claw. Poisonous Black Cloud Thorn. Immediately afterward, the Water Wave King and the other 2 also launched their attacks at Yi Chen. The power is not weak. Yi Chen's figure became illusory. With a puff, his figure disappeared. Yi Chen disappeared from where he was. A transparent ripple followed the gap between the chi forces and quickly passed through. Then, it instantly appeared in front of Water Wave King. It was not teleportation, but it was comparable to teleportation. The heaven-shattering sword ART's second move, Orbital Slash, allowed Yi Chen to grasp how to follow the spatial ripple's trajectory and pass through with the fastest speed. Of course, compared to sword arts, it was at least several times harder to achieve this with a movement skill. But it was enough. No. Water Wave King roared. He struck a palm at Yi Chen, who suddenly appeared. His palm, which was wearing a dark green glove, was wrapped in a turbid chi force. The power was majestic and vast, each wave stronger than the one before. Yi Chen sneered and slashed horizontally with his sword. Buzz! The palm and sword collided. The turbid chi force released by Water Wave King was instantly shattered. Then, an invisible ripple passed through Water Wave King's palm. Boom! Water Wave King's right arm exploded into a bloody mist. The bones in his body cracked and cracked. His whole body was like a broken sack, blown away. It was unknown whether he was alive or dead. Restraining my strength doesn't feel good either. Yi Chen didn't kill Water Wave King. He just made him completely lose his fighting strength. After all, he was not alone. If he angered the people behind the four forces, even if they couldn't kill him, they would definitely take revenge. Before he was ready, he didn't want to fight to the death with them. Therefore, that sword attack just now was just an ordinary vibrational sword art. However, at close range, its lethality was especially strong, and the power of vibration was also the strongest. Die! Seeing Water Wave King being blown away, Black King's ferocious nature burst out. His body suddenly turned into a huge black octopus. 8 tentacles covered the sky, and one of them entangled towards Yi Chen. Swoosh! The sword light shone brightly, and Black King's tentacle was cut off. Eagle flurry dance. Not far away, Sky Eagle King took advantage of this opportunity to condense his demonic energy into several fierce eagles, blotting out the sky and covering the earth as they swarmed toward Yi Chen. These eagles were vivid and lifelike. Apart from lacking intelligence, they were no different from real eagles. Each of them had a low 1-star battle strength, and could easily kill a large group of ordinary kings. However, compared to Whirlwind King, Sky Eagle King's attack was much weaker. Whirlwind King, who was wrapped in whirlwind, formed a hand seal with one hand and pointed at the sky with the other. In the next instant, wind spears dozens of meters long containing golden light descended from the sky, forming a killing array that enveloped Yi Chen. Metal Wind Killing Array. With the help of Metal Wind Killing Array, Whirlwind King had once fought dozens of rounds with a low-level 4-star king. In the end, he managed to escape without suffering the slightest injury. However, all of this was futile. Ever since entering Life and Death Realm, Yi Chen had already displayed the space profound to the utmost. Before, he couldn't use it because his Jin Yuan and soul power were not strong enough. But now, his Jin Yuan was much purer than ordinary Life and Death Kings, and his soul power was also 10 times that of ordinary kings. In his hands, the space profound was like a fish in the water, and he could use it with ease. Puff! Yi Chen's figure disappeared, and when he reappeared, he was already above Black King. Go down! Holding the sword with one hand, Yi Chen slashed down, striking Black King's huge body. The formless ripple was like a cannonball. Not only did it shatter all of Black King's tentacles, it even caused many cracks to appear on its body. With a swish, Black King's naked body smashed into the ground, stirring up huge ripples and creating a frightening crater on the island below. Blood gushed out. Humph! After doing all this, Yi Chen suddenly glanced at Sky Eagle King, who was about to launch another attack. Sky Eagle King's body stiffened. Yi Chen's gaze brought him an incomparably frightening pressure. It was as if countless swords were stabbing into his eyes, stabbing into his sea of soul. Among kings, there were 2 kinds of kings that were the most frightening. One was body-refining kings, and the other was kings with formidable willpower. The former was powerful in close combat, while the latter was overwhelmingly powerful. Yi Chen's destruction sword soul was at the 6th step, which was equivalent to an ordinary 7th step sword intent. Moreover, his soul power was 10 times that of an ordinary Life and Death King's. With a single gaze, he could make Sky Eagle King, who had a battle strength of 3-star, stiffen his body. Chapter 922. Whirlwind King did not see the look in Yi Chen's eyes. Seeing Sky Eagle King's body suddenly freeze, although it was a bit strange, he did not think too much about it. He only thought that Sky Eagle King was frightened by Yi Chen's methods. Gold Wind Flurry Cut. Whirlwind King's long-range attacks were all dodged by Yi Chen, not even touching his shadow. This time, Whirlwind King's entire body turned into a powerful whirlwind, sweeping toward Yi Chen. As he neared, golden wind blades shot out one after another, filling the sky. Facing Whirlwind King's all-out attack, Yi Chen didn't bat an eyelid. The Sky Scorpio sword slanted upwards, using the first style of sky-shattering sword arts, bewitching mirror-shattering. The twisting spatial power directly twisted the countless golden wind blades into nothingness, as if they had never existed. Then, the berserk spatial power instantly solidified, sealing Whirlwind King. Peng! The next moment, the purple mirror-like solidified space power shattered into millions of pieces, and the spinning space fragments cut deep bloody wounds on Whirlwind King's body. Some of the larger space fragments directly sawed off Whirlwind King's arms and legs. If it were not for Whirlwind King strengthening his protective Jin Yuan with all his might, so many space fragments would have definitely turned him into nothingness, leaving not even a corpse behind. With Yi Chen's strength, the outdated bewitching mirror shattering still had a frightening might. If not for Yi Chen holding back, this sword would have killed Whirlwind King. Of course, even so, Whirlwind King's battle power had already been reduced to 80%, and he did not have much power to counterattack. In the end, only Sky Eagle King was left. Sky Eagle King recovered from his stupor. When he saw this scene, his expression was extremely unsightly, and there was a faint trace of wariness. A single gaze was enough to make his body stiff. How was he supposed to fight? Kings that cultivated will were always kings among kings. Even body refinement kings were much weaker than willpower kings. Kings with extremely powerful will could even make ordinary kings faint with a single gaze. Yi Chen, I advise you to think clearly whether you really want to start a war with our four forces. You should know that it's not without reason that our four forces could contend against Dragon God Celestial Palace for so many years. King Tianying had lost the thought of fighting Yi Chen, but from the looks of it, he seemed to be sure that Yi Chen would not dare to completely fall out with them. Tell me, maybe I'll change my mind. Yi Chen, on the other hand, wanted to know which titled monarch was supporting the four powers from behind, opposing the Dragon God Celestial Palace. The Sky Eagle King hesitated for a moment before he said, "You should have heard of the ancient 100 beasts, the red-eyed black dragon tribe." The four great factions and the red-eyed black dragon tribe are in a cooperative relationship. Although you can defeat the four great factions today, you will have to bear the wrath of the red-eyed black dragon tribe in the future. This is not a wise decision. After that, Sky Eagle King sized up Yi Chen, carefully observing the changes on his face. Red-eyed black dragon. A trace of realization flickered in Yi Chen's heart. The red-eyed black dragon was not a true dragon, but a powerful flood dragon. Among the ancient 100 beasts, it was a demonic beast with top 5 aptitude. The red-eyed black dragon tribe was naturally a demonic beast race. They usually moved in the eastern deep sea, where they were overlords that no one dared to provoke. As an overlord, the red-eyed black dragon tribe's experts were as numerous as the clouds in the sky. Just the demonic kings alone numbered 4, and the most powerful one was a titled monarch called the Black Dragon Old Ancestor. Speaking of the red-eyed black dragon tribe, one couldn't help but mention the Dragon King. The Dragon King also had the flood dragon bloodline, and seemed to have some relationship with the red-eyed black dragon tribe. Many people suspected that the Dragon King was actually a member of the red-eyed black dragon tribe, but for some reason, he had separated from the tribe and established his own sect, establishing the Dragon God Celestial Palace. If it was the red-eyed black dragon tribe supporting the four great factions, then everything would make sense. Otherwise, how could the four great factions resist the 5-star battle strength of Xianhu without any support? The red-eyed black dragon tribe is indeed quite powerful. Yi Chen was not lying. The red-eyed black dragon tribe was an overlord in the entire Elysium. Since you also know that you can't handle the anger of the red-eyed black dragon tribe, you should leave now. There is still time. This time, let's just treat it as a misunderstanding. Any king warrior was worthy of respect, not to mention that Yi Chen had a 4-star battle strength. If they lost, then so be it. In this world, the strong ruled, and one's fist did the talking. Moreover, because of Yi Chen's power, the Sky Eagle King did not dare to make things difficult for Yi Chen. If a 4-star battle strength met a 5-star battle strength, he would lose without a doubt. But he would still have a chance to escape. Although the red-eyed black dragon tribe was powerful, they might not be able to kill Yi Chen. If they went too far, it would only result in both sides suffering. If Yi Chen had a 3-star battle strength, the result would be completely different. When a 3-star battle strength met a 5-star battle strength, the possibility of escaping unscathed was extremely low, almost negligible. It could be said that the peak-level kings of Elysium were the highest existences. Titled monarchs would not be willing to offend a peak-level king unless it involved their own interests. Sometimes, they would even take a step back to avoid an intense conflict. Of course, peak-level kings were even more unwilling to offend titled monarchs, especially the slower ones. Yi Chen was currently a peak-level king, and his battle strength was obviously higher than a 4-star low-level. The Sky Eagle King was overbearing, using the red-eyed black dragon tribe to force Yi Chen to submit and ask for forgiveness. This was definitely an extremely stupid thing to do. Therefore, he chose to retreat in order to advance, and let Yi Chen leave first. He did not dare to say anything else. The Sky Eagle King's thoughts were good, but unfortunately, Yi Chen's reply made him extremely surprised and angry. Let the Black Dragon ancestor talk to me. Yi Chen's attitude was extremely unyielding. Senior Dragon King had taken great care of him. For his sake, he was willing to become enemies with the Air Emperor. How could he not repay such kindness? If he didn't have the strength, it would be fine. However, his current battle strength was not weak. If he was unwilling to stand up for Dragon God Celestial Palace under such circumstances, then he, Yi Chen, would have lived in vain. How could he be worthy of Senior Dragon King? In the depths of the void, the white-clothed Xianhu faintly nodded with a relieved smile on her face. You've finally grown up. Old Dragon King, if you were still alive, you would definitely be gratified. If you were dead, you would be able to rest in peace in the underworld. However, I didn't expect him to be so sentimental, willing to stand up for Dragon God Celestial Palace regardless of offending the Black Dragon ancestor. We didn't misjudge him. No, he's even more noble than we imagined. It was not that Xianhu didn't want to stand up for Dragon God Celestial Palace. If Yi Chen wasn't afraid of the Black Dragon ancestor, why would she be? However, the bigger picture was the most important. She was waiting for Yi Chen to grow up completely. Once he became enemies with the red-eyed Black Dragon clan, Yi Chen would inevitably be affected. If anything happened to Yi Chen, all her efforts would be in vain. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.